the field goal. It'll be Jason and Chingel out of the hold of Mesco. Good snap, good hold, and the kick is blocked. Appalachian State has stunned the college football world. One of the greatest upsets in sports history.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman.
Well, good morning, and what a Monday morning after an unbelievable Sunday afternoon. Welcome to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I'm Thom Brennaman. We come your way Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time. You can find us on YouTube/Chatterbox Sports. We always ask you please subscribe to the program. You can also catch us on Facebook on the Chatterbox Sports page. We're streaming there. If you'd prefer to join us in podcast form, no problem. Just search Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman and you're dialed in. This was as dominant a performance as the Bengals have had in recent memory. I mean, where do you start? They weren't good. They were great. In all three phases of the game, it was a 27-10 complete tail kicking of the Buffalo Bills. I don't even know where to start, but I know where we're going to start. Jackson Carman, Cordell Volson, Ted Karras, Max Sharping, Hakeem Adeniji. That was the area of all the focus coming into this game. Could they protect Burrow? Could they run the ball? Yes and yes. Burrow was sacked one time. The Bengals rushed for 172 bruising yards. By the middle of the third quarter, Bills were done. D-U-N done. Frank Pollock had his guys ready to play. The defense, we've said it all year long, this is the strength of this team. Number one, Lou Anarumo put on a coaching clinic. Conservative early, then brought the heat in the second half, especially with Mike Hilton, pounding Josh Allen, seemingly play after play. Some of the numbers, Bengals set a postseason franchise record, had 30 first downs. The Bills had 18. 412 yards of offense. Burrow throws 2 touchdowns, not a single turnover. Joe Mixon might have been the best player on the field. 20 carries, 105 yards, and a touchdown, had another 18 in receiving yards. The Bills were 4 for 12 on third down. Money Mac was money again. And lastly, the Bengals in the entire game committed 2 penalties. 2. That's coaching. That's preparation. That's execution. So you saw this coming from a mile away. Maybe in the NFL they didn't see it. We saw it coming. It's like a Hollywood script. A rematch of last year's AFC Championship game, Bengals v. Kansas City at Arrowhead. Kickoff set for 6:30 p.m. on Sunday night. Zim Hude will join us in a minute. Tim McGee at 10:30. Brian Billick at 11. The biggest story we're going to hear about all week, how healthy is Patrick Mahomes? Did you see this play? Watch his right ankle here. This was in the game against Jacksonville. Gets rolled up. It's hard to believe the thing wasn't broken. Plants a right foot, gets rolled up on. Look at the knee, the awkward landing. And unbelievable. He would leave the game, showed incredible toughness by coming back. And 27-20 is a final over the Jags. Mahomes throws 2 touchdowns and leading his team to the conference title game for the 5th consecutive year. He is the first quarterback ever to do that before turning 30 years of age. Kansas City, of course, lost to the Bengals last season in the AFC Championship game in overtime. And the Bengals have beaten Mahomes and the Chiefs 3 times over the last calendar year. Now, over on the NFC side, Philadelphia looked like Philadelphia. The Philadelphia we saw the first 15 weeks of the season before Jalen Hurts got hurt. Hurts throws 2 touchdowns, runs for another score, 38-7 blowout of the New York Giants. The Eagles rushed for 244 yards, over 6 yards a carry. Their defense only allowed 135 passing yards to Daniel Jones. They had an interception. So, the number 1 seed will be at home on Sunday at 3, and guess who's coming to town? The hottest team in the NFL. The San Francisco 49ers beat Dallas in a slugfest 19-12. As great as Dak Prescott was last Monday night, he was awful against the Niners. It's not all on him, but he just can't win the big one. 23 of 37, 206 yards, a touchdown. 2 picks, should have been 4 or 5. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's been a starter in the league for 7 years. Loses to a guy that's 9 months removed from being the last player taken in the draft in Brock Purdy. And then there's this guy, Dalton Schultz. I mean, does this guy even know the rules of football? A lot of guys don't. I'm not saying that facetiously. But there's a rule in football that when you're going to the sideline, you've got to run forward before you get out of bounds to stop the clock. This guy catches a pass and steps sideways out of bounds. Clock keeps running. 2 plays later, they throw a ball to the guy. He's completely nonchalant over on the sideline with his footwork and steps out of bounds. Now, if he doesn't get lazy on that catch, granted, it would have been a Hail Mary, but you would have at least had a chance. The Cowboys have not been to the NFC Championship game in 27 years. Eagles and Niners on Fox. 3 o'clock Sunday. College hoops over the weekend. Number 8 Xavier bounced back from the loss at DePaul. A hard-fought 95-82 win over Georgetown. Zach Freeman, a monster game. 30 points and 11 rebounds. X goes to number 15 UConn this Wednesday night. UC lost yesterday to a solid Memphis team, 75-68. Bearcats are 14-7 on the year. How about number 1 Houston? At home against Temple and lost, 56-55. And what in the world happened to Kansas? Number 2 team in the country, they're at home. They get destroyed by number 14 TCU, 83-60 at Allen Fieldhouse. It's one of the worst losses in the Bill Self era. All right, boys and girls, are we getting Zim Hude? Did he? I have not checked to see whether he decided he's doing it today or tomorrow.
I do not have him yet.
All right, well, if he's not on here in the next few minutes, we do have Tim McGee coming up, as we mentioned, at 10:30. We're going to talk about this Dak Prescott thing in Dallas. Jerry Jones just on and on and on and on, that if I could play with Dak Prescott against Brock Purdy 10 times, I'm confident we'd win 8 or 9. Well, you don't get a chance to play 10. You play once. But that's for later. Casey, you rolled in at 2:30 after making the trip. Brandon made the trip. He rolled in at 3:15. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling electric, Tom.
You don't look electric.
I don't look it, but I'm feeling it. I am excited. I am relishing this opportunity for the Bengals to go 4-0 against the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and go to the Super Bowl.
Casey, what was your overall impression of the Bills, the stadium, the fans? Just kind of give us a rundown of what you experienced yesterday.
Well, much like the team itself, it was underwhelming. The fans weren't like, you expect like the Bills Mafia, they're hard party and hardcore, breaking through tables. We didn't see any of that. In fact, I thought the Bengals kind of ruled the day there. Wow. They just kind of took over the stadium. They took over the tailgates. And I don't know, man. I mean, the team is just They find motivation in the weirdest ways, but they always seem to come ready to play when it matters the most. And this Bengals team, man, they did not miss a beat. Didn't matter that it was snowing like crazy. They just ran hard. They were able to throw all over the place. I'm sure if it was called for, Joe Burrow would have had 400 yards that game.
No doubt.
He was just throwing all over the place. But it didn't matter because we ran for almost 200 yards, which was very surprising. But like I said on the show Friday, the way that they were going to win this game, having a balanced attack, and they were efficient on both sides of that. They were able to throw all over the place. They were able to run and dominate the line of scrimmage. I mean, I don't even know if any of the Bills players really came to play on defense. I mean, the only guy that really came to play on offense was Josh Allen. And Stephon Diggs was over there just throwing a hissy fit because.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into that whole Diggs thing later. It's one of the things about sports that in recent years, this is like the thing that you do. And if anybody caught it, okay, the game was already decided. Buffalo's last drive, it's 27-10. This game's over. Bills are out of timeout. Like you said, Allen's running around for his life the entire second half when all of a sudden it seemed like every time he turned around, Mike Hilton was just blowing him up. And, on the fourth down play, Allen throws it to somebody else besides Diggs. Incomplete. Bengals take a knee. Game over. Over on the sideline, Diggs is standing there with his arms up in the air, directing whatever it is that he was saying at Josh Allen, who clearly is very dejected, sitting there on the bench, head down. There was nothing to look at. You're not looking at a computer. You're not looking at pictures. You're not looking at none of that nonsense. Game's over. I mean, when did it become cool? Or when did it become okay? And none of the Bills players lit him up in the comments after the game. If I played for the Buffalo Bills, now, I don't know exactly what he said, so I got to be careful here. But just the demonstrative behavior, and you can say he was emotional and wrapped up, and I get all that. We've all been there. When you've said something maybe you wish you didn't say emotionally to your wife, your girlfriend, your buddies, whatever. It's just so out of line. So out of line.
Yeah, one thing that I feel like Joe Burrow does so well, and the difference between that team and this team is that the Bills lay it all out there for everyone to see. And other teams do that too. I'm not just saying it's just a Bills thing, but just from what we could tell, that one game, the Bills just airing out all the dirty laundry, right? The Bengals will take it privately. They won't show it to the public. If Joe Burrow will go into the locker room and talk to Jamar Chase about the game, whether he had a bad game or not. Or, he doesn't just flame him for the whole media to capture and to have this narrative now about the team. And, I mean, it's not a good one. It's not great. I mean, this is a bad way to lose in the playoffs, at home, in the elements that they thought they had the advantage in.
I don't know why anybody would think that. I mean, I know what you're saying, but I mean, look, what you think the Bengals are playing in sunny and 70?
No.
I mean, seriously, why would the snow favor either one of those teams?
Maybe because Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase haven't played a ton. Like Jamar Chase, that was the first time he'd ever played in the snow. And
right.
there are some elements to that I think with like Joe. Now, Joe, I saw a stat on Saturday night that he was 6-0 in games 35 degrees or colder, so it's not like he hasn't played well in the snow.
I got to give it up, by the way. I got to give it up to our guy here, B29. He came back.
He did.
He came back. Big Bills fan last week. He said it was going to be a tail kicking in favor of Buffalo. He writes in, Casey, respect to Cincinnati. Like last year, I'm pulling for you to beat Kansas City and win the Super Bowl. You got this. Now, there's a big league.
Yeah.
That's no Stephon Diggs.
I appreciate some guys doing that, but, man, we earned this thing. We earned that respect last year. Why are we getting respect now?
I got to say, and you were at the game, and look, I've never understood people getting all wrapped up in the announcers. I mean, the Romo talk has been so tired. people beating him down, you being one of them, I might add. Yesterday, he couldn't keep himself from drooling about the Bengals. But I will say this. He made a great point, and I thought it was his opinion, and I admired the opinion whether you agreed with it or not. He said, look, what they did last year, he said, I watched them. He said, and I thought they were a nice story, thought they were a good team, but wasn't sure if they were ready to truly be a team that was going to do this year after year after year. He said yesterday, without a doubt, I'm all in on believing in the Bengals. So you got to give it up to him, Casey, for that. Come on. Come on.
I heard the exact same thing. It was like the post-game show, right? Where
no, he said it live during the game. But my right ear, Paul, he drooled over him yesterday.
Well, people are going to have to like it because it's Romo again next week.
That's right.
So,
well, I listened to it, the post-game of him talking to the CBS studio. And to me, his body language and just the way that he was telling the audience how he felt, it looked like he just struggled. It looked like he just didn't want to admit it. It was like, yeah, the Bengals they're a juggernaut, I guess. You know,
he did not say it that way at all, Casey. He did not. I watched every play of the game with the sound up in my house. I was by myself. I watched the whole game.
Yeah,
he wasn't apologetic in his sort of, he drooled yesterday over the Bengals.
Right. There's two different ones. There's one of him on camera talking to the studio after the game. And then there's one that you're talking about while I was in game. And I watched the one that he was talking to the studio post game. And to me, he looked like he didn't want to praise the Bengals at all. But that's just maybe because I have a terrible disposition for Romo. But regardless, I'm going to have to listen to him this upcoming Sunday.
You are.
Are you not going? I thought you were going. Are you guys not all going?
No, we're going to Kansas City.
But are you? I think you're going to. Are you not going to the game?
I don't know. Trace hasn't said.
No, maybe not. But I just figured you are all going out there. You're going to the game. Maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know.
I think we're going to stay at a hotel that has a casino in it, and
well, they got a lot of those out there.
Just hang out there and gamble.
Casino.
Leader of entertainment.
Yeah.
My takeaway from this.
Does Missouri have legalized gambling? Sports gambling, sports book?
Missouri does not, no.
Yeah. Frauds. Not surprised. Go ahead. We've had it for all of 23 days.
My takeaway from this game was that if you were a neutral observer of this game and you didn't care about the Bengals, didn't care about the Bills, this was a boring game that the Bengals just straight up dominated from start to finish. I mean, if you were just watching this like we watched the Cowboys and the 49ers game afterwards or even the Eagles game the night before, 49ers game was better than that game. But the Bengals won this game. Think about this. The Bengals game-winning touchdown, what ended up being the game-winning touchdown, happened about 9 minutes into the game. Think about that. Their second touchdown, their game-winning touchdown, happened about 9 minutes into the game. The Bengals could have not scored from that point on and won the game.
Yep.
They straight up dominated every single facet of the game. The Bills never really even had a pulse, and I just don't understand why these opposing teams keep winning the toss and keep giving the ball to Cincinnati.
That's what we want.
I don't understand what these teams are doing, giving Joe Burrow the ball and saying, here, we'll play from behind all game. I don't get it. I don't.
Teams like that. Casey, look, one thing Zach Taylor this year did halfway through the year was he flipped his philosophy on this deal. It's a good point you bring up. Remember, Zach Taylor was exactly like seemingly every other team in the NFL, where if they won the coin toss, he was going to defer to the second half. Because, look, there's a lot to like about, look, you see both sides of it, right? But the way the Bengals are going right now, and as good as Zach Taylor and Brian Callahan and that offensive staff, they are phenomenal at scripting plays to start the game. The Bengals seemingly every time they get that ball to start the game are right down the field, touchdown right out of the gate. But Zach Taylor flipped the script halfway through this year. Said from now on we're taking the ball first. There was no drama in the coin toss yesterday. You knew the Bills, if they won it, were going to defer, and you knew if the Bengals won a coin toss, they were taking the ball.
Yeah.
It's one of the few times you can never say that. I mean, this team is, they are well coached. They were early in the year and last year, a lot of times did not look like they were ready to play at the start of games. Paul, I think you bring up a great point. I think that this shift in philosophy of taking the ball first, and if the other team wants to give it to you first, fine. Bills did. But in getting the ball first, this team is setting the tone that says basically what their mantra is, they got to play us, and they got to try to stop us from the very start of the game.
And if you think back to the Monday night game, people were talking all week. Can we take anything away from that game on Monday night where it got stopped after 9 minutes, 10 minutes, however long they played before DeMar Hamlin got hurt? Can you take anything away? Well, if you think back to how the Bengals played in that game, they went down and drove. They held Josh Allen and the Bills to a field goal on their first offensive drive, and then the Bengals were driving again.
Yep.
The play of the Bengals in that game could not have been any better from a confidence perspective leading into this game where they go down and they did the exact same thing again. And if you're sitting there in the locker room or you're going through practice all week and you're thinking to yourself, what can we take away? What can we remember? What can we talk about from that first game against the Bills? How much can you really extract from 9 minutes of gameplay? You can extract a whole lot of confidence. And we talked about it last week. How much emphasis can you put on those first two drives? In my mind, it was a lot more than people were giving them credit for.
Agree.
And I think that the Bengals knew that too, and I think Joe Burrow knew that too, and they did the same thing in the next game, and that's what they did yesterday.
I think the Bills knew it too.
Yes. And again, why did they give the Bengals the ball? I mean, we'll take it, but why did they give the Bengals the ball? You have your quarterback, Josh Allen, go out there and you have this whole quarterback debate. You want to say that you are the preseason Super Bowl favorite that everybody, by and large, mostly picked to win the Super Bowl this year for good reason. They had a lot of defensive injuries. They had a lot of reasons that the season kind of got derailed for them. But when it came down to it, you have the guy that the debate is on with Burrow and Allen, and you could have set the tone, but instead you basically punt on it, and you give the Bengals – the Bengals went down and scored, and the game was over. I know they needed one more touchdown, but that game was over from the first touchdown of this game.
Now, boys, you get into a situation, and this is something we're going to talk about all week this week. It's going to be fascinating to see what the Bengals are going to do on their offensive line if two of the starters are able to come back and play.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the pass rush, I think we all agree, is far better for Kansas City than it is for Buffalo. Just a straight pass rush with the guys that they have. And the numbers would back that up. They don't have some monster guy like Parsons or Bosa or anybody like that. But they've got a good pass rush. Secondary unit. I don't think their defense is very good at all. But, I mean, after you watched that clinic yesterday, and I mean, Jackson Carman, dude, we laid it out there last week. This was his opportunity again. He's been given a couple coming right out of college. Second-round pick, starter at Clemson, left tackle. His first start as a left tackle in the NFL. And this guy handled it all. He was killing people in the run game, very efficient in the pass game. He had one penalty, I think. Burrow was sacked one time, but that wasn't his guy. That was after a breakdown and a lot of scrambling around. I mean, that sack wasn't on the offensive line. That was on Burrow for not getting rid of the ball, but no big deal. I mean, it wasn't a situation where he had to, try to throw it down the field and make something happen. He did, and that's the way it went. But Sharping, Adeniji, Karras gets hurt during the game, comes back in, says no way after the game. Karras said, if you didn't see the comments after the game, now, this is a guy who has won a Super Bowl. He is 3-0 in championship games when he was playing both at New England and Tampa Bay. Okay? And he said after the game last night, it was the most meaningful win of his NFL career because of what those guys did around him. 3 new starters. They got it done now. You want to roll the dice with Jonah Williams next week if he can come back? Or you want to see Carmen out there?
No, I think Carmen deserves the next opportunity. I will say this, dollar in the jar. The offensive run game plan couldn't have been any better. They knew the tendencies of the Buffalo Bills to a T. I mean, I implore everyone that watches film to watch what they ran. They ran a lot of, I think it's called wham, where the tight end comes back around to seal the end.
Wilcox and the other guy, Asiasi.
Yeah, and Adeniji and Carmen put a clinic on Milano and Edmonds all day, just beating them down. And it is perfect for when your tackles can't win at the line of scrimmage, right? It's perfect because it helps them out so much to be able to just focus on the second level. Just focus on getting the second level. And they got there a lot, and it showed all game. What it also did for the pass game, I mean, the ends would scream upfield, and all Jackson Carmen had to do was barely push the guy out of the way, and he had him blocked.
Amen. And that's what they ask you to do. Go do it.
And Burrow is so fast at getting the ball out of his hands. You cannot scream upfield on this team, especially with the way that they're designing the run blocking schemes. Now, I don't know if that will work with Kansas City. I don't know if they've decided to switch the run game and if Kansas City will be able to adapt and adjust to this. But if they continue this, I really do think that the Bengals have a legitimate chance of winning that game and having a really good chance in the Super Bowl. Because if they have a run game like that and the pass game that they have, they're unstoppable.
Well, Paul asks every week, do you have a gut feeling about the game? I think the Bengals are going to go in there and absolutely blow the doors off Kansas City.
Fire me up, Thom.
I think they are going to. I think they are going to hammer that team. I really do. I just think that there's something about them. They're going to just take. Now, Mahomes is the big deal, right? I mean, that's the billion-dollar question. And you can say, it doesn't matter. It does matter. It does matter. Okay? If we were talking about Joe Burrow having an injured fill-in-the-blank, ankle in this case, and he can't move around, and there's only so much you can do, Mahomes, his game, a large part of it in the big plays in that offense are him moving around and now slinging it down the field. If he can't move around like that, it changes entirely what Kansas City wants to do. Now, they do have Andy Reid. And you can rest assured he's been up all night, trying to figure out now what are we going to do. They can run the ball. To one point that Boomer Esiason and Bill Cowher made after the game last night. This Kansas City team is different in the regard comparing this time to last year. They can run the ball. Now, can they run the ball against the Bengals? I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. We're going to find out Sunday night. But before we get to Tim McGee, Ham and Eggers, take it away because we got Tim McGee coming up to talk about this one. Boys, all you. Ham and Eggers.
It's that time of the show, the Ham and Eggers. These guys are great. Trust me, I would know. I introduce all the best segments.
Ooh, super close.
Casey?
Yeah.
Was there anything else maybe from Buffalo? Did you try any wings? You got up there on Saturday. Did you do anything else that maybe is not about the game? Was there anything? Have you been to Buffalo before? Are there any takeaways from the city? I know you said you weren't impressed with the partying culture there up in Buffalo. You were kind of demeaning to the Bills and their fans up there. Bit. But I'm just curious. Did you enjoy your time up there? Did you get out to see anything besides the stadium?
We didn't really stop by Buffalo. We just went straight to the stadium.
Business trip,
and it was So I will talk about the stadium, though, a little bit because I am glad for that fan base that they're getting a new stadium here in 3 years. I'm about to be a little bit more demeaning to the Bills.
Oh, no.
Bills Nation here. That stadium felt like I was at UC.
Yeah.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Because UC's nicer than that stadium.
I think you're proving my point. Is that
No, that's like going to Miami, Oxford. That's that stadium.
it was like going to Miami,
I
actually.
mean, saying Nippert is nicer than something, that's saying something. So.
Right. I mean,
$80
I'm
million into it.
I'm just really glad that they're getting a new stadium. They're getting all the new. Sorry, someone's calling me.
Oh, you're getting a phone call.
So,
Is this Bills Stadium for sure happening?
yeah, I think it is.
Okay.
I think it is.
All right.
But it's like right across from that stadium, apparently. Like they're just doing it in the empty lot right by that stadium. So I don't know if they're going to demolish the old stadium. But it was, it just, the atmosphere was so off for me. Like I'm so used to a Bengals just, intense, ready to go. And it might not have always been like that, but just in recent memory with this Joe Burrow-led Bengals team, the atmosphere there for the Bills just wasn't there for me. I don't know.
Great.
I really wish that I got that experience. I wish I would have had some wings. I didn't see any wings on my way to my seat. They had – I will tell you this. That's another $1 in the jar. They had a special going on there for chili dogs.
No way, really?
But it was actual chili in the chili dog, and the buns were just falling apart. They tried. They
Brandon
really tried.
Seho over here had his Skyline sign that went everywhere.
Yes,
Skyline
and
tweeted it
that was-
out.
that was
It's an
awesome.
elite sign.
Everyone loved that sign.
That was great. We do have Tim McGee in
All
here,
right.
Tom. We're good to go whenever you're good
Here
to
we go. Let's get to the main man here. Kind enough to join us again. Tim, I got to tell you, I didn't see a tail kicking of this magnitude coming. Was this not a tail kicking? You played almost 10 years. This was a tail kicking. Am I right?
You're 100% right, and let me tell you why. The narrative was spread so often, so many times. You did not want to go through Buffalo. You did not want to go through Buffalo. You do not want to play in Buffalo, and especially because the Bills were a very good team. So when you look at the performance today, or yesterday, I should say, when you look back, it was a complete domination of the Buffalo Bills. At home in Buffalo, you couldn't have put all the variables together, bad weather, Buffalo, New York, Josh Allen, national media, with the exception of Von Miller. You couldn't have put all the ingredients together to not expect the Buffalo Bills, from the national media standpoint, to whip the Cincinnati Bengals. And from start to finish, this was a good old-fashioned take you behind the shed and spank that butt.
I want to ask you something we were talking about a minute ago, because it's become almost a given. The teams, if they win the toss, they're going to defer to getting the football to start the second half. About halfway through this season, Zach Taylor changed his mind about that thinking, and he decided if we win the coin toss from now on, we want the ball first. When you're an offensive player, do you want to be out there first?
Yes. And the reason being, you kind of control your own destiny. And especially from the Bengals, let's just face it, although the defense don't get the credit that they deserve, this defense has been absolutely wonderful. But you do have the star power of Joe Burrow, and not giving him the football at the beginning of the game. I wasn't really excited about that strategy, but when they changed it from an offensive standpoint, it's like, we can be up. We don't need a short field. The Cincinnati Bengals offense does not need the old school mentality of a short field to be successful. They can drive at 99, 98, whatever it takes, they can do it. They have the confidence, they have the talent, and giving Joe Burrow the football at the beginning of the game, I thought was just magnificent in this particular game because, Tom, the Bills never stood a chance from the opening drive. The opening drive, it looked like it was flag football. And that's just had to be demoralizing, especially when Buffalo their offense didn't put any points on the board. So, once you get behind the Bengals and they put together a complete game, and I had not seen that in a while.
I'm with you all the way. I thought it was the most complete game, and I know there are a lot of fans that will say, what about this game, what about that game? In a meaningful, big-time game against a big-time opponent, it was the most complete game, in my humble opinion, that I've seen out of this team, even through the Super Bowl run a year ago. I just said in all phases of the game. All right, I want to get inside football a little bit here with you. You played for Sam. He obviously scripted plays. I'm assuming every single team scripts plays to start a game. Walk us through, Tim, for an offensive-minded coach, which Sam was and Zach Taylor is. You have the offensive coordinator in Brian Callahan, and certainly input from Joe Burrow. What is that like during the week to come up with that script?
The script is very important for reasons that people don't know. People think it's a strategy thing. It's a let me go out and we're gonna test this defense. If they plan a 4-3 or cover 3, it's cover 1. Actually, the number one reason it's for the psychology or the psychological effect of the players. When you get that first 10 plays, and you see your name on it, you're going to be engaged. It's not one of those situations where you're going, I don't know if I'm going to get the ball today. You see, and Sam did a great job, of course, because we had, Boomer at the quarterback, myself, Eddie Brown, Chris Collinsworth, Ickey Woods, and James Brooks, and Rodney Holtman. So it was very important for all of us to see that we were going to be a part of the game. Now, as the game progresses after those 15, Bruce Coslett and Sam, they always told us, the guy that has the hot hand, or the group that has the hot hand, we're going to continue to ride that, and that's what you do. So you see the first couple of plays, Buffalo gave them the slant, and Jamar Chase started. You knew once Jamar Chase started, you knew they were going to keep going after it and after it and after it, and that's what they did. But that's what the first 15 plays or 10 plays, however they scripted. But that's the most important part, to keep guys engaged, especially at the early stage of the football game.
The offensive line, it was a focal point the entire week. Were they going to be good enough? Were they going to protect Joe Burrow? Could they run the ball? Well, it was yes and yes, as we mentioned, to both of those questions. I think he only got hit 3 times. He was sacked once. They ran the ball incredibly well. But you're a guy that's sitting there paying attention. The rest of us are watching the ball. A guy like you're watching what some of these guys are doing. What were your thoughts about the 3 new starters along that offensive line? It's easy to say they scored 27 and they did all the things I just mentioned, but how did you feel they played in the game?
Well, the number one thing offensive linemen love to do is run. And their run game was on. And that's what's probably the most surprising element of the entire game, was the fact that it was like, okay, wait a minute, the Bengals have a run game? And Joe Burrow was, he was clocking 9-10 yards. And you knew, well, the reason being because the offensive line, those 3 much maligned offensive linemen that were obviously substitute backups, guys that are not supposed to play to the level of the starters, they came in and established the game early that they can run the ball. Well, okay, if you're running the ball effectively and you're a passing team, you just got the whole playbook at your hands. It's okay. What do we want to do? Do we want to throw the T? Oh, how about let's throw to the tight end? Oh, how about let's throw in a little run there. They kept starting with the offensive line. They allowed Joe Burrow, Zach Taylor, and Callahan, Brian that is, they allowed them to open up their playbook and just pretty much select whatever they wanted to do. And, because you can execute starting with those 3 guys, and they just play wonderful.
What was your thought on the touchdown catch by Chase that was overturned?
That it's one of those. when is a touchdown not a touchdown? It's like the ball's moving. I mean, that's just some technical BS. Come on, get away from that crap. I mean, it was a touchdown. Of course, there's this thing now. What our eyes see is not what our eyes see. Our eyes saw a touchdown, and I'm pretty sure the Buffalo Bills, although they were hoping it, but they saw a touchdown. But from the technical side, the ball moved, the string moved, and then it went from his middle finger to his baby finger, and therefore it's not a catch. But if it was on the sideline, it was a catch. It just, come on now. It's disappointing. The NFL has too good of a product to let little itty bitty things like that possibly affect the outcome of the game. That's just poor. The competition committee needs to go back and clean that up.
Look, we have all week to talk about this, but I'm just kind of curious. I threw it out there at the very beginning. Carmen, I had said on the show last week, this young man was given a chance a year ago. He laid an egg. He didn't get it done when given that opportunity. He got this chance, the biggest start of his career, first time ever at left tackle. You barely ever heard his name, and for him, that's a good thing. He played very, very well. Jonah Williams came back the last time. He didn't even miss a game the last time after dislocating his kneecap. He had the same injury again against Baltimore. There's a chance you get Karras back, or Kappa back, rather. Maybe. It's all maybes. After what you saw yesterday, would you be hesitant to make any changes coming into this Kansas City game on the offensive line?
I would not make any changes. And here's why. I think this is very important. When you get two of those starters back, because we know Collins out for the year, if they are healthy enough to play, the problem is they may be 80%. Your backups who just played at 100%, I would rather have a guy at 100% than a guy at 80% when you're talking about the offensive line. They're going to have a bigger challenge against Kansas City. Buffalo was hurt. I'm not making no excuse whatsoever. None, zero. They played fabulous. But what I'm saying, I would not bring back someone from an injury unless it was your quarterback or a wide receiver. But I think you would be risking, or they would be risking a guy coming in, like I'm saying, he may try to gut through it, but at his 80% versus a backup 100%, a proven backup or backups plural, I think I would go with the backups.
I want to ask you about, you mentioned earlier, you played with Boomer. And anybody who spent 10 minutes around Boomer, you just kind of knew that he had that sort of it factor, right? That he was going to lead a team along with having a lot of great talent around him, you included, and a phenomenal offensive line and all those kinds of things. But, today, and you get the reactions and the overreactions and that kind of thing, really about two guys in the NFL today. And I wonder what is inside the head, and I'm not asking you to be Sigmund Freud here, but for Josh Allen and for Dak Prescott. These are two guys now that their fan bases are wondering, are these guys going to ever, quote unquote, win the big one? Do you know as a player whether you got the guy?
I think so, but it's what you put around the guy. And the best example in the NFL is probably Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, we know, is a phenom. Josh Allen is a phenom. I wouldn't put Dak in that category. But Dak plays in a market in Dallas that, they have the best PR in the world. People expect them to win every single year, or they come out with all this PR that they're going to win, which the talent don't match what, that's one of those your mouth is cashing the check that you're behind, just probably don't have the money into the account. But anyway, I just don't think, I really truly do not think you can look back at guys and say they can't win the game, like the quarterback position is the only position that's going to equate to your success. And I've seen several times where, the quarterback plays a great game and they lose, and they still blame it on that guy. He's not that guy. But remember, our guy, Joe Burrow, hasn't won the big game. So are we setting it up where in a couple years we're going to say Burrow is great, but I don't know if he's that guy to win the Super Bowl. So I'm always hesitant to put too much focus on the quarterback position because, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, they didn't win Super Bowls every year. Tom Brady won them a whole hell of a lot. But when they didn't win them, it wasn't because he wasn't that guy.
Ankle injury. And I don't know where all of a sudden we went in the world where it became a sprained ankle to a high sprained ankle. But it really doesn't matter. Your experience, and I heard Tony Romo, which I found to be very interesting yesterday. He made the comment, he said, look, when that injury happens and you're on the field, whatever it is they do to you in the locker room or the sideline, and I don't care what it is they do, Mahomes came trotting back out there, and Romo made the point. Your adrenaline's going. You're already warmed up. You can find a way to get back there and get on the field. When you wake up the next morning, you might need crutches to walk for the next 2 or 3 days. Is Mahomes going to be at 100%? Where do you – I know you don't have a crystal ball, but, based on your experience in these kind of injuries, how serious is that injury?
It's funny. I got to give you a inside the locker room story.
Good.
So when I played for the Redskins, I was working out in the offseason. I was working out at Princeton High School, where I stepped in a sprinkler head that was missing, and I messed up my heel. And I go on in the Redskins. I wasn't myself because I was limping. I had a terrible limp because it was so painful. I got a shot before a game, and I went out and had like 100 yards, touchdown, and all that. And, all the write-ups were good, and I'll never forget the shot wore off. I went to bed, and I got up to go to the bathroom, and I took a step, and I'll never forget. I was grimacing in pain, like what the hell just happened? So it's like, yeah, you can get away. So I would agree with Tony. Yeah, when the adrenaline is flowing. Yeah, when you get that shot to pretty much, cancel the pain out. We call it numb it. And yes, it affects you for 2 or 3 days, but he has youth on his side. If that was to happen to you or and I, we would be out for 6 months. That happens to him, he'll be out 4 or 5 days. And just remember, he's a mobile quarterback, and a high ankle sprain, will it affect him? I think so. But see, I always think that's scary. I think injuries are scary to quarterback because it makes them do what? It makes them focus more because now they know they have to make up because they make up for the loss of athleticism. So now they have to play a smarter game. So that kind of scares me or concerns me a little bit because maybe he won't be as mobile, but he'll be smarter. He'll make the right decisions. He'll go through his read. He won't do more improvising. So that could be an advantage or disadvantage.
All right, well, speaking of advantage or disadvantage, before we let you go, everybody knows the Bengals have, quote-unquote, owned the Chiefs, right? Burrow's 3-0 against Mahomes. They beat him 3 times in a calendar year, including in this game a season ago, overtime game. Mahomes threw the pick in overtime. Bengals kicked the field goal, win the game. When you've had a team that, quote-unquote, at least for 1 year, has your number, based on your experience, does that help you, or in the back of your mind you're kind of going, ooh, if something goes wrong, they kind of got our number here? Or is that all just media talk and nonsense?
No, first of all the games have been great games. So both games could have gone either. All games could have gone either way. So with that being said, again, the concerning factor in that is, yes, you're going to get up for a team that's beat you that many times. Yes, and let's face it, the Kansas City Chiefs are really believing it was luck. It was bad luck for them, good fortunes for the Bengals. Yes, they respect the Bengals, just like everyone else. They're not going to give the Bengals credit. They're going to feel we didn't lose to the Bengals. We beat ourselves. And with that, my concern with when you win, and you win 3 to 4 to 5 games, you have this win streak, there is some complacency on your behalf. Now, the exception will be, and I have to laugh, is this Bengal team. Every single angle we put in front of them, they come back and straighten it out. They're not supposed to win with three linemen out. They've lost their cover guy. They've lost just so many combinations. They played in Buffalo, New York, Tom. You're not supposed to win. But they do not get the memo. For some reason, they do not answer the mail. They don't open up the emails, and they don't get it, man. And they just go out and play their game. So I think they can beat Kansas City if they play their games. But Kansas City is, again, just as talented as the Bengals. They have a quarterback that's just as good, if not better, than Joe Burrow. They have talent all around him. It's going to be another great game.
All right, my friend. We thank you so much for your insight, Tim McGee. Thanks for your time, buddy.
I appreciate your time as always. Thanks for having me on.
All right, buddy. Tim McGee, that guy's on his game, man. He knows his stuff.
He does.
I love going to the locker room with him, because that's a guy that's in there. And I loved what he said about the script and about getting players to focus who know they're going to get the ball. I find that so interesting. If you're a guy in there, let's say those script, yeah, and look, if you're a coach, based on what he just said, right, that means for the Bengals, you make sure there's a play somewhere in there where Mixon's going to carry it. Burrow's going to touch it every play. But Chase, Hurst, Higgins, Boyd, make everybody in that first 15 or 20, whatever it is they're scripting, everybody knows early on that they're going to have a chance to put their hands on that ball and make something big happen in a huge, now AFC championship game setting. Ask Brian Billick a little bit about that because he had to do the same thing. He's got Randy Moss, and he's got all these other guys running around that are great players and had to script that whole thing as the offensive coordinator. I believe Dennis Green was a head coach back in those days before Brian became a head coach. But, he also brought up a very interesting point about, it scares you a little bit when a guy knows like Mahomes. He's hurt, but now he's going to have to just focus on probably keeping things incredibly simple if he can't be at 100%. And this is exactly razor-focused on what he has to do.
Yeah, and I think a big part of the reason why Bengals have beaten Patrick Mahomes is because they've been able to contain him in the pocket when he tries to run around. And at waste time, his eyes go down. Now that he's just going to be in the pocket, I don't know. Their offensive line's really good. Maybe they rely more on the run game, but that's kind of running into our strength. But
I don't know if it's running into their strength. I don't know. I've said all along, and Baltimore proved my point. I'm not so sure that the Bengals' strength is run defense. I think they're incredibly well coached. I love the way Anarumo mixes it up. He kept it, as I mentioned, very conservative on defense, and you knew that early on. They were going to play back, and then when they got in the red zone, then they seemed to have an incredible ability to focus and hold team to field goals. Only one touchdown in the whole game for Buffalo yesterday, right? But Baltimore ran the ball.
Well, I don't disagree with you there. I think what Baltimore did was really just run away from DJ Reader. If you can get to the outside, to the tackles, run off tackle, in between the tackles and the guard, you're gonna have at least some more success than you would than just running it straight up the middle. And I also think Sam Hubbard still was kind of hurt. Same thing with Hendrickson. They're not able to seal the edge as well as they would be if they were fully healthy. Hendrickson with his wrist and Hubbard with the ankle. I don't know if they're fully healthy now. I don't know. Just from watching the game in Buffalo, they still wasn't able to contain very well. They were able to bounce it out quite a few times, especially with Josh Allen. So, I would consider that the Bengals' strength, but as of late, Cam Taylor-Britt has been really stepping up. Same thing with Eli Apple. Our pass defense has been doing really well, even without Awuzie, which is really surprising.
Eli Apple has played good football for this team.
Yes, he has.
He's a lightning rod, and look, if you don't like him, I get it. I mean, he's an Ohio State guy, and so I tend to like some of those guys. But yeah, I mean, he can make you crazy, man. I mean, he can make you crazy, right? With some of the stuff he says. And I will say one thing about the guy: he doesn't back down to anybody. And I mean, he was a guy. Now I know they double sometimes, and they move guys over sometimes. Stephon Diggs was an afterthought in this game.
Yeah.
And Eli Apple's a guy. I loved Apple's comments after the game yesterday, among many he had. He said, just go look up the numbers. Just go look up the stat sheet. We can talk about everything you want to talk about. Just go look at the stat sheet.
And, I mean, they were just making plays after plays. I mean, I can still picture the tomahawk chop. Gabriel Davis down the sideline. He just bobbles it out of his hand. And they were able to get pressure on Josh Allen and make him not throw accurate deep down the field, even when guys were, somewhat open. But, I mean, they did their job. They did a really good job. I thought the defense – I'm not really concerned about the defense. No. I'm more concerned about the offense versus the Chiefs. Just the offensive line will still continue to be in question until they prove otherwise against a top 10 defensive line. Because let's be honest here, that defensive line was not great. I mean, we were looking up the numbers earlier. They were 27th in run defense. They were 27th or 28th in run defense, 27th in pass rushing since Von Miller's been gone.
Chiefs are better than that.
Well, and that's right. I mean, the Chiefs statistically on the year, points allowed, all those kinds of things, yards allowed, they're not the same galaxy with Buffalo over the course of 17 weeks. But over the 18. But over those 18 weeks, things change. Guys get hurt. Guys come in that were backups that don't do anything, or guys come in that were backups that are really good players. The Bills had a lot of injuries on that D. You heard Tim. It's no excuse. It's not alibiing for the Bills in any form or fashion. They got their tails kicked by the Bengals yesterday. The only area Kansas City is better than, minus Von Miller of Buffalo, is getting after the quarterback. They've got some decent pass rushers.
Yeah. And they're able to get after guys. They are, I think, second only to the Eagles. And I think they finished the season with 55 sacks. They're able – they do a really good job at blitzing. And these linemen, if the same five guys start, they got to really have their X's and O's straightened out, their P's and Q's. They got to have them figured out. They got to know when they got to pass a guy off in a stunt. They got to know to protect the inside first, identify the blitzer, all those things. And Joe Burrow, too, included in that. He's got to, they got to figure it out. And I think they will. I think they'll do a good job. I just, you worry that they haven't all been together for long enough to know each other.
Tom, I was waiting to bring this up, but since the chat asked, I'll just ask it now. I am ready to hit the button.
Don't even go there. I know where you're going, and I'm not going there.
But I know it's probably going to take a Super Bowl. Is it going to take the Super Bowl?
If they get back to the Super Bowl, we'll get there.
Back to the Super Bowl.
They win this weekend.
Really? I thought it was going to take a Super Bowl win.
Nope.
They got to beat the Chiefs.
First time in franchise history, back-to-back years they've won playoff games. First time in franchise history, obviously, back-to-back AFC championship games. I have been the first guy that has said all along, I stand by what I said about Zach Taylor before this year. I thought too often they did not come to play at the start of games. Last year they were having to come back from behind and win a ton of games, right? Didn't play the offensive line this year in the entire preseason together, even though you had 4 new starters from last year. They give up 13 sacks the first 2 games of the year, lost both of those games. Think about those 2 games and the Baltimore game, where he got cute inside the 5 down there.
Yeah.
Okay? They win one more of those games, just one of those 3 games. They're playing at Paycor Stadium this Sunday because they beat the Chiefs in the regular season. That game would be here this weekend. Yeah. So I stand by all that. But I'm also a guy that can try to grow and learn a little bit, okay, and pay attention and change your mind. We're all able in this world to change our mind. Only a stubborn fool says, I think this, and no matter what, I'm standing by that. That's a stubborn fool. Because events change, things change, times change, people change. What Zach Taylor has done this year has been unbelievable, off the charts. He's hired the right coaches. He's been the CEO. He keeps the team focused. He's clearly ready in the game plan. This year, unlike last year, they come out and take it to teams right from the get-go. And it all changed when he flipped the script on getting the ball first. That's when everything changed. They have not lost a game since that happened.
Yeah, they stopped playing scared.
I agree.
And they decided, look, they said it last year. We didn't put the ball in Burrow's hands. We did too many other things. And earlier this year, they're playing all that silly stuff of, the shovel pass to a guy who hadn't touched the ball all year long. You're running wide receiver passes and sending Burrow into the end zone in the Baltimore game. They learned a lesson, and I give them all the credit and him all the credit in the world. He said, we're going back to basics. No more of the nonsense. No more of this stupid stuff. We are going to play, as they say, what got us here. And what got him there was number 9 touching the ball every play, and let him either make the play. If he makes a mistake, hey, you go down with a Titanic, and that's the way it goes. Because he's the man. Right?
Agreed.
Right. Agreed.
So I give it up to the guy. I totally give it up to the guy. He has done a great job this year.
There is something that needs to be addressed that I am going to fully be upfront and honest with this. We all picked our playoff brackets. Now, there is something that I'm going to say about my bracket that I could not bring myself to say. I'm not superstitious. Jinxes don't exist. But if you know me and you know our Chatterbox group chat or whatever and what I send around, every week on Sunday Night Football, I always look and see what everybody picks, right? And I see how many times all the picks line up in the same spot. If everybody picks the same pick and you see that same team panel all the way across and you're thinking to yourself, oh, no, that team's toast, right? So we're sitting there, we're going through our bracket. You guys pick. We all had the same bracket, but there was only one thing different. I couldn't let this happen. I said that the Bills were going to win this game. I said the Bills were going to win the Super Bowl. I said the winner of this Bengals-Bills game was going to win the Super Bowl. I still believe that. I think the Bengals are going to get this thing done. But I did have the Bills out of this game as the one difference, as the one differing opinion, just so that there was a little texture to the
Are you trying to say that
a little texture to it?
Again, he's growing as a man. He's allowed to say that. Look, he's admitting his mistakes.
There's people in the chat that are going to bring that up, and I'm not going to shy away from it. I did pick the Bills pre-playoffs, but I did pick the Bengals handily, and I won 16 units on the Bengals yesterday.
Boys, I got to tell you, I can't remember what I ended up picking all the way through. I had the Bengals in the Super Bowl. I can't remember who it is against, but I hope it was against a team that if they get to the Super Bowl, it's who they're going to be playing, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles. That is a big-time team.
Oh, they put a clinic.
I mean, when they've got Jalen Hurts, we all forget. When he was healthy, he was the best player on by far the best team. He misses a couple of games. They lose. They bring him back so they can nail down the number 1 seed. He's not 100%. Dude, that team, they got it going on.
Yeah, they do.
I know the 49ers won, and the 49ers have had a phenomenal year. I mean, it's a great story. I mean, everything about the 49ers, it's a great story. They're on their 3rd-string quarterback. Last guy drafted, right, a year ago, 9 months ago, and he's undefeated. The Cowboys defense got after. They came to play yesterday. Dan Quinn's not going to be there very long. He's going to get another chance to be a head coach as their defensive coordinator.
Agreed.
But
That was the greatest.
your boy
worst.
Danny Dime.
Oh, it was bad. It was
Danny Dump.
bad. Yeah, he was bad.
I mean, come on.
I had him
Good Lord.
I had him last in my quarterback power rankings on the box lunch on Friday, and boy, it showed. He was, yeah, the Danny Dimes, not good.
Yeah, I mean, this Eagles, if you look at this team from top to bottom, is there a weakness at all?
On the Eagles?
I don't think there is.
Yeah, they're good.
They've got every position has a starter or better, like elite to star.
You want to play the 49ers,
You do?
right?
I don't know about that.
Between the
think-
Eagles and the 49ers?
You know,
I mean, I know we're getting ahead of our skis here. You have to beat the Chiefs, but
I
like,
know
let's
that.
just do this
I
for
tell
a
you,
second.
I see that pass rush, man, for the 49ers.
The Eagles is just.
I
as
know the
worse.
Eagles is, but there's just, it seemed like the second Dak Prescott caught the ball in shotgun, that there was somebody all over him. I just don't, I don't know what to read out of it. Maybe the Philadelphia thing. Maybe I'm getting a little carried away. I don't know. How the Giants won a playoff game, I will never know.
Well, the Vikings were frauds first.
They didn't play at 1 o'clock. Thom, God, come on.
I mean, come on. The Giants, it's a nice story. They had a nice year, but good Lord. That's the one thing you have to say. Here we are, and this is what you always hope for. A lot of people in the world, they like to root for the underdog, and I am too. I get it. But we, without question, it is not even debatable. We have the 4 best teams in the NFL playing this weekend.
And you know how crazy it is that we play this entire NFL season, and it was a very good NFL season, a competitive season, a lot of parity in the league, and we still end up with 75% of the same championship weekend as last year. Eagles and Rams are the only difference.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's the same 3 teams. We do all this.
I'm reminded, by the way, Brian reminds me, and you just said it, Casey, the Eagles lead the NFL in sacks.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to bring it up. We thought Saxonville was a thing. The Eagles have 70 sacks, I think. And Hassan Reddick and that front 4 are just nasty. I mean, I watched enough to know that I don't want to see that. I'd rather take my chances with Bosa and another guy.
All right, so an early gut feel. Paul asks this question every single week, and we got all week to talk about this, and we are able to change our minds because we're not making our picks yet. Early gut, Philly v. San Francisco. Who do you like?
I mean, I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win the game just because I think they got a better quarterback. But I mean, their scheme and the players that they have around, it's too hard to take away something from them without giving up too much of something else.
Yeah.
If you put 8 in the box, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are going to kill you. If you play the nickel package, Miles Sanders and that offensive line for the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, they're going to ground and pound you. And the defense, I mean, you can't run on them because their front 4 is just nasty and tenacious. And if you try to throw the ball at all, Hassan Reddick and that group can get after you too. I mean, and not to mention Darius Slay. And they've got another guy, I'm pretty sure, too. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's been playing really well, too. That secondary, they can lock down some people, too.
Well, the only difference between the two, and we can talk about the numbers and stats and all those kind of things, I don't recall this year after about the 3rd or 4th week of the season, since San Francisco got on this winning streak, I don't recall them serving up 27, 34, 40 points, something like that in the game. That has happened to Philadelphia. That has happened this year. Even as they've been steamrolling everybody, and they were what they were for a while, 13, 14-1, something like that, right? Something like that at one time. But there were games where they would win, but they'd give up a few. All right, but let's talk to Brian Billick. Great to have him with us, former Super Bowl winning head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. And Brian, everybody here in Cincinnati, so excited again. A complete and thorough domination of the Bengals over the Bills. Were you surprised? I'm not going to say easily, that's the wrong word. Were you surprised at how overwhelmingly dominant the Bengals were of the Bills in that game?
Yeah, like everybody, and it was on the front lines, offensive and defensive line. We talked about the concern going in, the vulnerability of the Bengals offensive line because of injuries. And yet they were just, like you said, there's no other word for it, dominant, both in the running game, in protection, on the road, in Buffalo. So that I think it's a fair assessment. We keep talking about, well, the Bengals for real, and they're building off last year, and Joe Burrow's really good. No, they're the best team in the AFC from my money, including Kansas City. Now we're going to find out, and it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a hell of a game, but I think when you size them up with Burrow and the weapons, and now the offensive line, their ability to run the ball, what they did with their defensive line, across the board, I think you give pretty much all the checks to Cincinnati.
I asked Tim McGee this question a little while ago, Brian. You've been in this position, maybe not to this extent, where you lose 3 starters over the course of 3 weeks, and you're going into Buffalo with 3 brand new guys. One guy starting at left tackle, although he played it in college, first time in his NFL career, in Jackson Carman. If you get, Jonah Williams back this week, 85%, whatever it might be. Kappa's had a great year as a starting right guard, but, he injures his ankle. He comes back, maybe he's 85%. Would you keep that same group in there that dominated Buffalo yesterday and not make any changes?
Why not? Because you're going to face a group that I don't think's as good as the Buffalo front seven. I don't, and nothing against Kansas City, and Steve Spagnuolo does a great job, but I don't think they have the talent along their front seven that Buffalo had. So I don't know why you wouldn't continue to go with those guys, because they're confident now. They're feeling good about themselves. We've seen that they have a good, solid scheme against Kansas City that they're confident in. So I'd stay with those guys. Yeah, I've had where I've lost 3 of my 5 starting offensive linemen. Now I went 5-11, so I don't know if it's a good reference point, but it's impressive what they were able to do. And they're going to go in with Kansas City. That's the biggest thing. They're going in with confidence, which is hard to do to go into Kansas City, not just because of the game they came off of, but because of the way they played Kansas City before. And so, this is going to be very interesting.
All right, I want to get away from the Bengals for a minute, and I want to talk to you about a couple of other issues that are going to be out there in the league. I think we all agree quarterbacks get too much of the credit oftentimes, and oftentimes they take too much of the heat. Let's start with Josh Allen. When this season started, everybody thought, hey, this is a guy, you said a little while ago, about Burrow, and everybody thought Mahomes and Allen, who's the best, who's the better of the two. Burrow's not even in the conversation. Now Allen, they lose at home. It's a second year in a row now where they don't get even to the AFC Championship game. What do you think's going on up there in Buffalo, at least in his mind, or with the franchise's mind?
Well, as you led in with, it's always hard to separate the play of a quarterback from what's going on around him. He did not play well. I still think he's an outstanding talent. I think he's still in the same caliber of Mahomes and Burrow, but he needs to step up in these big games. That's the next challenge for him. We've seen him perform in the big games. The other night, I think it was more, I give credit to Cincinnati more than I think that the Buffalo and Josh Allen didn't play well. I think Cincinnati just dominated. They dominated on the front seven. They couldn't run the ball. Cincinnati just chewed up the clock every time they got the ball. And Buffalo showed, and they responded. Every time Buffalo kind of got something going, then Cincinnati responded. So I don't think that's all Josh Allen. I think they're legitimate questions, and I think they will be asked until he can get them into the championship game and win and go to a Super Bowl. But I don't think it's an indictment of Josh Allen. I still think he's one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league.
All right, what about Dak Prescott?
That one's interesting. Clearly, the up and the down and coming off the big game that they had. And now that was an outstanding 49er group, and it was on the road. Okay, fair enough. But still, he's got to step up in the big games, and so far he has not. And same thing with Josh Allen. Until he does, it's a legitimate question. And their offensive line needs to get back to where it is a team that can run the ball when they want to, at will, to augment now the play actions, because they've certainly got the big play receivers down the field. But no, those are legitimate questions. I don't think you bail on them. I don't think it's all of a sudden, okay, Dak Prescott can't play and should Dallas go another direction. But he's going to have a tough off season, having to come into this next year and show that he is indeed that guy consistently. And the hard part will be he can do it all during the regular season. And I will say, okay, great, but let's see what happens in the postseason. So we really won't be able to answer the question until we get into next year's postseason.
Getting back to the Tim McGee conversation for a minute, and I found it interesting, but you're a guy who actually had to sit down and do it. And we were talking that ever since Zach Taylor decided that in the coin flip, about halfway through the year, he decided from now on, if we win the coin flip, we're taking the ball first. We're not doing this stuff where we're deferring anymore to the second half. And it has led, by and large, a huge part of this winning streak that's knocking on the door at 10 in a row now. They get the ball first. They seem to go down the field almost every single game and jump on the opponent with an opening touchdown. But to the scripting of the plays, when you were the offensive coordinator, later the head coach, walk us through scripting the first 15 plays, because it seems like the Bengals, now they got to execute, but it seems like that they have been nearly flawless in the start of games, knowing they're scripting the first 10, 15, 25 plays.
Well, let's go back to the history of it. It began with Bill Walsh in Cincinnati when Paul Brown was the head coach, and Paul Brown would sit down with Bill on Sunday mornings and say, okay, what are your openers? Give me your 15 to 20 openers. And Bill, being the coach that he was always going to be ready for that conversation. We thought, well, if I'm going to do that, I'll share it. Let's share it with the team on Saturday night and talk through what my opening calls are. And if we're going to do that, let's orchestrate earlier in the week so we can actually practice the sequence. So everybody does that. I think some people misunderstand. It doesn't mean you just have the first 15 plays. What it means is here are your opening plays on first down, second long, second medium. Is it a first down to open a series? Is it a first down after a big play? Is it a first down after a second and third down conversion? Here's my first 3rd and 1. Here's my first 3rd and 2 to 3. Here's my first 3rd and 4 to 6. Here's my first 7 to 10. Here's my first 3rd and 11 plus. So it's not just okay, here's play 1, here's play 2. Here's my opening play to start the series. All right, here's my first, second, and long if I don't get anything. If I get if let's say it's a run and a good second medium, okay, here's my first second medium play. Here's a third medium. So, and it works its way all the way down. Okay, if I get into the plus 40, all right, here's my first vertical. Is it the first vertical after a big play, or is it a vertical after I've earned my way there? And then now when you get down into the red zone. So it's a series of opening plays, one place off the other. And yes, you script personnel and formation and whatever. But it's not just here's the first 15 plays. Here's the first 2 or 3 plays in these categories and how I will play off them. And they have been brilliant. And as long as they're having, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, they're confident, they feel good about it. I'd keep doing it. No, it's great until you get your first 3 and out. And now all of a sudden that flips the script and you've given your defense, in a tougher field position. But the way that offense is clicking, I understand totally wanting to take the ball to start the game.
Tim thought it was important that what it did, Brian, is that, back when he played, and Sam Weiss was the head coach, you knew Sam, coach against Sam, offensive-minded guy, much like yourself. Both of you great innovators, offensive thinkers. You had Boomer Esiason, you had James Brooks, you had Ickey Woods, you had Chris Collinsworth, you had Tim McGee, you had Eddie Brown, you had Rodney Holman, you had all these weapons, right? Just like you had in Minnesota. Tim thought it was very important in that quote-unquote scripting of plays that every guy at least knew they were involved in those first scripting of plays from an individual standpoint. Did you try to do that? Because, I mean, the easiest thing in the world, right, would have thrown the ball 10 times to Randy Moss. But you had other pretty good players around you.
You want to get everybody involved, right? You don't want it to go all of a sudden. That's where all of a sudden a team gets criticized for not running the ball enough or not throwing it enough or not going to this guy or that guy. When you get back to it, they're in a bunch of 3 and outs. Well, you can't get anything going when you don't have that kind of rhythm. You're going to have a play. I always had a place on my game plan. Here's a Randy Moss box. Here's a Chris Carter box. Here's a Robert Smith box to go to get them involved, particularly in critical situations. And in the case of Cincinnati, you got a lot of boxes, which is good. You got a Hurst box, you got a Chase box, you got a Higgins box, you got a lot of boxes in there to get them involved because you want to do that. Now, you can't get to them all, and it's never perfect. You also get a sense of, because every defense at some point is going to come in and you start to get a rhythm. Okay, who is it they're going to stop? Okay, if defensive, I said you can stop anything you want offensively. I don't care who it is. I can stop it. The question is at what price? I can shut down Jamar Chase in a New York second. But am I going to get now beat up with Higgins and Hurst and Joe Mixon? So the question becomes, who are they trying to take away? And now what are your answers to that as well? And that's tough for the player. And he's got to recognize, okay, it's hard for me to get going here because, Chase, they're doubling me. They're bracketing me. They're rolling everything to my side. That's why you saw Hurst was so effective because clearly in Buffalo they're going, okay, we're gonna double or bracket Chase and we're not going to let Higgins get going. Well, that meant one-on-one you had a great matchup with Hurst. So that's a good job with Joe Burrow recognizing, okay, well, you want to do that? We're going to do that. I got an answer for it. Or I'll run the ball to Joe Mixon. And so that's the good thing is they have an answer. He can go whatever box he needs to once he gets a sense of who they're trying to take away.
Brian, before we let you get out of here, we had Kenny Anderson on last week, and he was talking about how selfless this Bengal team is from an offensive standpoint, walking through the example you just gave. If Jamar Chase has a game where he has 3 or 4 catches for 48 yards, you never hear the guy complaining after the game. You never see him walking up and down a sideline and throwing his hands up in the air. Tyler Boyd was the number 1 receiver on this team 3 years ago before Burrow showed up. He's almost an afterthought as a number 3 guy, a damn good number 3 guy, but he's almost an afterthought now with Chase and Higgins and on and on and on and on. It leads me to Stephon Diggs yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, I asked a question, Brian, before you came on here today. I don't know when all this stuff changed, and there have been quote-unquote divas through the years, whether it was, Des Bryant or what's the guy's name the Bengals had for a year here? Yeah, Terrell Owens. Brian, look, you had a guy that was as demonstrative as anybody in Chris Carter. I mean, that guy felt like he should have had the ball. You've forgotten more about this than I have. But he felt he should have been getting the ball every single play, right? But for Diggs in the fourth quarter, 2 minutes to go, the game's all but over. They were really never even in the game. But here it was, a 4th down, their last possession. Allen throws it to somebody else besides him, and he's walking over on the sidelines, throwing his hands in the air, yelling and screaming, walks in the locker room, grabs all his stuff, turns around, walks out the door. Got to get a teammate to come back and get him. I mean, are we at a point now, nobody criticized him after the game. Not McDermott, none of his teammates, none of that kind of stuff. How would you handle that on Monday morning?
That is a tough one because, and every group is capable of it. The group that you're talking about in Cincinnati, the group I had in Minnesota at the time, because you were winning. And they recognized that there was a strength that the better Chris Carter does, the better Randy Moss is going to do, the better it opens up for Robert Smith to run the ball. It's all, so, and they understand that balance and you're winning. It's when all of a sudden, like in Buffalo, when you hit that rough spot, and now, it was real simple, and you don't want to get in a tit for tat for that. But the answer for Josh Allen's as simple as I didn't go to you because there were 3 guys on you on that down, okay? This was the only option of it, because obviously give them some credit. Cincinnati went and said, we're not going to let you throw the ball here. Okay, so that's part of it too. And you're right. We're in the age of the diva receiver and all the guys you talked about. And that doesn't mean the group in Cincinnati under tougher times, that doesn't present itself. It's human nature. It's the classic players jumping on the soapbox going, I confess he did it, type of mentality. And it's replete, and everybody's capable of it, and it happens in tough times. But the precursor to it is saying, guys, if you don't do that, that leads to the good times. But in today's world and with the athletes you have, it's just no. You try to you try to approach it calmly. Hopefully, saner heads prevail. You get him back in. You kind of talk through it and show him. And now, if he wants to carry that further forward, that's his choosing. But that's not a good thing, because it's selfish. And there's a reason Josh Allen didn't go there. Josh Allen wants to get you the ball. That's been proven. Okay, but you got to give the other side credit as well.
All right, before I let you go, how was the bowl game?
Great fun. I love coaching the Hula Bowl, because these kids need that game. Sometimes you get into the all-star games, you got the top end guys, and they're going to be top picks, and they really don't want to play. These kids are going to be back in, if they're lucky, second, more likely third day of the draft, undrafted free agents. Had a good group of quarterbacks. Tanner Morgan from Minnesota, all of them. Holt Ehlers from Eastern Carolina, and then Sean from Penn State. Good kids and smart and unique. They were all guys that played their entire careers there. Sean Clifford at Penn State. Good, mature, great leaders. Just great fun to be around. They played very, very well. They all got to play a lot, so it's fun bowl to be a part of.
All right, give me one name. I know you're not around these guys all the time, and you don't see them, over a training camp or something. But give me maybe one name that we can just kind of keep an eye out for when the draft comes around, where you say, you know what, I saw enough of this guy to think maybe here there might be a little something that somebody's overlooking. Well,
last year I had Pacheco and didn't know. He was a running back and good solid runner, but you're rolling all the guys through because you want to get them all their reps. And you could see, boy, this is good, and it was good all week. Had no idea it was going to be that good for Kansas City. This kid, Christopher, I think it's Jones or Christopher Lloyd. I'm terrible with the names. The running back from BYU.
Okay.
Ended up being the MVP. He's pretty good. Good out of the backfield. Good, strong, physical runner. The Cooks kid, the wide receiver from San Jose State, showed he had some play about him. Had a couple good tight ends. Turner from Toledo was really good, and Ezekiel from UCLA. So there were some good kids in the game.
Good. All right, Brian, thanks as always for your time, my friend. Have a great rest of your week.
All right, sounds good.
All righty, Brian Billick, kind enough to join us, Super Bowl winning head coach. He joins us every week. We certainly appreciate his time very, very much. Love getting that inside football stuff. All right, let's take a break. Anything on the chat interesting here today?
Well,
there seems like to be a lot of bickering going on about something. I don't even know what it's about.
I'm not so much worried about the chat, but Tom, I am going to say something that the chat might not like.
Ooh, all right.
I'm going to say it, and I apologize if it hurts anybody's feelings, but I'm going to say it. Remember a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Georgia and the Kirby Smart deal, with how he had kind of incepted the Georgia Bulldogs into believing that they were going to go 7-5 this year, and that they proved a lot of people wrong?
Well, there was some comment made by a player.
Well, yeah, a player, and everybody said, man, he must be the greatest motivator of all time to make that Georgia Bulldogs team believe that they could go 7-5. The ticket refund thing is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Every team sells tickets before a game to other games. You could have bought Bengals Jaguars tickets at Paycor before this game. I don't understand what the refund.
Well, you better talk to Brandon.
I don't.
He's the one that's all uptight.
I don't understand it. Like, it's contrived motivation, and that's fine. That's fine. Now, what I will say, Dollar, is the coin flip. If you want to do a general NFL out to get us coin flip kind of thing, like, hey, we had to go back and like what Zach Taylor did.
Yep.
I appreciated that
Yep.
more than the whole refund thing,
Yep.
because the refund thing is a part of the NFL business. You can buy March Madness tickets ahead of time before you know where a team's going to play. You can buy AFC Championship game tickets. I don't really get the whole ticket refund
Well, don't
thing.
you think if for
But-
no other reason, it's just strictly a motivation?
It is. No, but that's what I'm saying. But that's exactly my point with Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs, where you have to find motivation from somewhere and you get it from that. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, and Zach Taylor went on and made the comment after the game. He's like, I'm so sorry we have screwed up so many logistics for so many people.
That is what Zach Taylor said is exactly, I completely agree with what he said. You go out there, you throw in 20 seconds of sarcasm and say, screw your coin flip. Perfect.
See, this is the stuff guys like Casey get worked up about. This stuff about the selling the tickets. And him and Seho, they're the ones that get all worked up about this nonsense. But, hey, if you can use it to your advantage, more power to Zach Taylor, more power to the franchise. Katie Blackburn did a phenomenal job representing the Bengals franchise when the owners were changing the rules. Yeah, I mean, I get using it as motivation, but you're spot on. All right, you guys take it for a second.
All right. Roll then.
It's that time of the show.
It's that
the
time of the
Ham
show.
and Eggers. These guys are great. Trust me, I would know. I introduce all the best segments.
We're out of there in time. Look at that. Out of there in time. Let's see. So we already talked about going to Buffalo. Casey, was there anything else on your mind about, anything? Maybe you didn't get a chance to respond to that take right there. Was there anything with that?
With the tickets take?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, I didn't think it was great motivation either, but you find motivation in the littlest things. And I think they were more upset about the coin flip than anything.
I agree.
Just from listening to some of their interviews beforehand, it seemed like they were still upset with the league about that.
Yeah.
And I think it's rightfully so, honestly. I still think that it was a Bush League that they did that to them and that there wasn't a coin flip for this game. But that's okay. We're on to the next team, and
I'm just sitting here trying to imagine what a coin flip looks like. Are we talking about like a Friday Night Lights? I said this the other day.
Yeah.
Are we talking about a Friday Night Lights thing where Kansas City and Cincinnati meet up in some random, gas station in Terre Haute, Indiana, and, Joe Danneman goes out there with the lead sports anchor from Kansas City, and they set up their tripod, and it's looking at the ground, and they flip a coin, and then all of a sudden, boom, the AFC Championship is at Paycor. I'm just trying to wrap my head around what that would have looked like.
God, dude. I mean, they
What
would have
a ridiculous concept.
The league is lucky that all the things that happened pretty much led to a normal playoff season. Like, could you imagine the neutral site stuff or doing the coin flip thing? Like, how many people would just call bull crap on whatever the coin landed on, or how they would even like.
Well, imagine if it was Roger Goodell flipping the coin and it landed on Kansas City. I mean, just picture that scene. But in regards to the AFC Championship and the neutral site and everything, I do think, all jokes aside about the tickets being sold and the refunds and the other thing too, I don't want to take away from all the fun, because let me tell you what, I was clipping the Joe Burrow thing. I was clipping I went back, I watched I loved it. I just thought it was kind of funny because but all jokes aside about that, this is a massive, massive win for fans of the NFL to not have this game at a neutral site. Because if this would have worked out, if they would have gone down to Mercedes-Benz, if they would have played that game between the Bills and the Chiefs, it would have been a mini Super Bowl. And some people that argue that the AFC is better than the NFC may have said it was the Super Bowl, right? If the AFC team would have gone on to win, they would have said, it was the Super Bowl. Just like you talk about with Georgia and Ohio State from the college semifinal this year. This is a massive, massive win for the NFL fan to not have had to endure the potential of future neutral site games down the road. This is a huge win for the NFL fans, because there is a very realistic and easy world where the AFC championship or the championships in general are played at a neutral site. That's not going to happen now.
The guy's name that I was wrong about that showed up this week was Blue Libra. I think that's the Bills fan.
Oh, I don't remember.
I think it is, and I give it up to the guy. I give it up. He showed up today. So well done. I give it up to both of them. 2 Bills fans on the chat last week. And we said, hey, look, after the game, win or lose, you got to show up. You got to show up. And so they did. And so thanks for coming back. All right, boys. Real quick, Paul, shifting gears, and I know everything is all Bengals all the time. I get it. I'm on board. I get it.
Yeah.
Xavier over the weekend beats Georgetown.
Yep.
I watched parts of that game. And it was a back and forth, obviously very high-scoring game for both teams. Apparently, Sean Miller not happy with his team.
Yeah, I mean, he absolutely ripped Xavier's defensive effort to shreds, which is deservedly so. They didn't play very well defensively. They haven't played very well defensively, and the biggest issue is that it's always been the opposing point guard. Georgetown's point guard, Primo Spears, he had 37 points in this game. And the opposing point guard playing against Xavier has averaged 22.5 points per game this season. I mean, that just can't happen. Now, the MO for Xavier has just been they go out and outscore the other team, but that's not sustainable when you get down the road in March. So you can get through the early games, the home games, things like that, but when you get down the road in March and you're trying to win to advance to a Sweet 16, you're going to have to lock up. You're going to have to be able to defend. And even Xavier's best defensive player, Colby Jones, didn't have a great game. That was discouraging. Overall, pretty fun weekend of college hoops. UC had an exciting one yesterday. They fell short. They were small home favorites. Lost to Memphis. That's a tough one at home. That's a game UC really needed. UC still doesn't have a win in the top 2 quads this season. So that's a tough one for UC at home. They have 5 quad 1 games left. The Houston game away, the USF game or UCF game, and then I think it's 5 quad 1 and quad 2 games left. It was a fun weekend. Kansas got blown out at home against TCU, which that's now the 3rd year in a row Kansas has had a blowout like that, one every year. It's kind of just a weird anomaly. Kansas plays Baylor tonight, big Monday game. That's a huge one. But yeah, college basketball, I mean, you get into conference season, and right now I know, like you said, we're talking a lot about the Bengals, and obviously as we should with the NFL and everything, but you're starting to get into the heat of conference season, and you turn on a game on these weeknights. It's been a lot of fun.
I mean, I give you all the credit in the world for watching it. I just can't watch it anymore. The regular season games are by and large they're meaningless.
What?
They are. They're meaningless.
What are you talking about?
They're meaningless because so many teams make the tournament. I'm talking about for the top 30 teams. Their regular season, now, are you playing for seeding in the tournament? Of course you are. Of course. Okay? But at the end of the day, nobody cares. They really don't.
What?
Nobody cares.
This is wild.
You don't have the juggernauts anymore. You don't have the blue bloods that are there at the top, and some will say, outside of Kansas, and some might say, well, that's what makes it great. College basketball is great when Kentucky's great, when North Carolina's great, when Duke is great. Nobody's going to watch Arizona. Nobody cares. I lived out there. Guys, I am telling you right now, there aren't, in our chat right now, there aren't 3 people that can name 2 players on Arizona's team. There aren't 3 people that can name 3 players on Kentucky's team. Oh. Nobody talks about it anywhere you go, except for the 10,000 that sell out the Cintas Center and the 9,000 that go to the UC games.
I mean,
and our buddy Seth Davis, who we're going to have on the show here soon.
I mean, it's not like Kansas. I mean, it's not.
It is almost like the NBA and hockey. Everybody seemingly makes a tournament. I know that's an exaggeration, but I mean, come on,
Tom. It's the same amount of teams. It's the same amount of teams that have made the tournament.
And the shame of it is that you're really not getting the best teams. That's the shame of it.
All
Because every team in the Big 12 should be in the NCAA tournament field. Every one of them. They ought to be in, and they're not going to be. Every single one of them should be in the NCAA tournament field without a shadow of a doubt.
I mean, I don't know if you can put an 0-7.
Does anybody care about UConn? Seriously.
They're one of the
They were ranked number 2 in the country, and they can't get out of their own way since then.
They won by 30 yesterday.
Who did they play?
I mean, Butler, but they still won by 30.
Oh, my God. Are we even – you shouldn't even have answered that question.
Tom, I mean, I don't know what you want. UConn was a bad example. They've won 2 national championships in the last
Dude, that is before either one of you were born.
They won in 2014.
Well, that's damn near before you were born.
I would argue back, Tom, that the casual fans will enjoy this basketball season more than the hardcore fans, because the hardcore fans are your UK, they're your blue bloods. But the more casual fans, they enjoy parity. They enjoy different seasons.
It's all about gamblers. The NCAA, the people that follow the basketball, college basketball, are the gamblers right now. You've got people in this town. Paul points out on the chat, he says, I can't name 2 guys on UC's team.
Well, that's just sad. I mean,
the people that care about college hoops, Trace Fowler, you to a lesser extent. No, you.
To what?
It's guys that are gambling on college basketball.
Yeah, but I don't
the ones that care about the sport right now.
I mean, yeah, I don't have to gamble on it to care about college basketball. But I do understand your point that, well, but college basketball is a niche sport in general, right? It happens during the end of college football season and through the NFL season, and until your college football team, right? Like, Ohio State fans are pissed off at Chris Holtmann right now.
And should be.
Because all they've done is lose since they've been watching the games. They're on a 5-game losing. Now, they did win by 16 this weekend against Iowa, saved their season. But, you know, if you're an Ohio State fan that didn't start paying attention to college basketball until Ohio State lost, then all you've seen them do is lose when they had a great November and December. So it's funny listening to the college football or college basketball fans and kind of when they start picking up on the sport, because if you're an NFL fan, it's probably whenever your team loses, right? So if you're paying attention in this town, it's whenever either the Bengals win the Super Bowl or you know, whenever the Bengals season is done, is when a lot of people then start shifting their focus to paying attention to college basketball. And I mean, it's not like Duke and North Carolina are still probably going to make the tournament this year. They're going to be in it. Kentucky right now looks like they might be on the right track to getting back into the NCAA tournament. So you're probably still going to have all those brands. Yeah, you don't have Villanova, but like if you're talking about the teams that have had a ton of success lately, they're not at the top. But God, look at Alabama. I mean,
do you think anybody cares about Alabama?
They're selling out every game.
Yeah, of course. What the hell are you going to do in Tuscaloosa
on a Tuesday night? They're winning every game by 20.
I mean, seriously, do you think anybody cares about Alabama basketball outside of the state of Alabama? Or if you got to play them in the SEC?
I mean, Kentucky fans would.
Do you think anybody?
That's a terrible argument, Tom.
Till we get to November. What's that?
That's a terrible argument. Do you think anyone from Detroit cares about the Bengals right now?
Yes, I do, because I think everybody and his brother watches the NFL. Absolutely, I do. It's a border state. They
watch
just
casually.
Look at the numbers of people that watch it.
They watch it casually and bet on it. Just the same thing as college basketball.
Listen, here's all I'm saying, okay? When we get to March, it's when people care about college basketball.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It's a niche sport. Like, is everybody going to be like me and choose to watch college basketball over the NFL unless it's the Bengals? No. I get that. But, you know, like, is everybody going to watch 10 college basketball games a night like I am? No. I get that. But to a certain extent, I mean, if you're a alumni of a team that is good and relevant, or even UC this year, I mean, there's frustration, but look at UC going to the Big 12 next year. I mean, it's so hard to make the NCAA tournament that when you get there and you can appreciate the team.
Time out. Let me interrupt you there, and then you can continue your thought in a second. Did you just say it is so hard to make the NCAA
Look
tournament?
at Indiana. They've made one tournament since 2015.
I'm not asking you to give me examples. I'm saying, are you telling me it's
is
hard to make
Yes.
the NCAA tournament? If you're in a Power 5 conference, if you finish in the middle of the pack, you've got a decent chance to get in.
I mean, yeah, but
Right or wrong?
a decent chance, yeah, but it's
No, in fact, you have a better than decent chance. You have a good chance if you're in one of the top 5 power conferences and you are a 500 team in your conference, and if there's 12 teams in a league, you can finish 6th or 7th or 8th and you get in the NCAA tournament.
I think
True or false?
We're just going to differ because I don't believe
No,
that.
but is that true or false?
I mean, depends on what conference.
I
Yeah,
just said
the
of the
sixth-
top 5. If you took the ACC, now they're a little down this year, but the Big East is definitely down. But if you
The
take,
Big East has more top 20 teams than the Big 12 right now.
but when you watch them, you know they're not.
How much do you
I
watch
mean,
the Big East,
If
Tom?
the Big East, I can tell you right now, this is what I can tell you. If you took the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth best team, if Xavier played in the Big 12, they'd have 5 to 6 losses in the league right
But
now.
everybody does. The Big 12 is so good.
Well, that's what you just said to me. You just said they have more teams ranked than the Big 12.
I'm just saying the narrative that the Big East is down is tired.
God, we need to have that button made.
It's tired.
I can't wait. I can't
It's
wait.
tired,
I can't
Tom.
wait. I can't
The Big
wait.
12 is-
You're going to tell me Creighton would fare well in the Big 12? Creighton?
But the Big 12 is like, I mean, they're clearly the best conference in the country. They're clear, but I'm saying that you
think Creighton's better than Kentucky?
Yes. Oh yes.
Oh my God.
Tom, how much?
You think Creighton's better than North Carolina?
Yes.
So you're telling me
Yes.
tomorrow you believe, if you are a gambling man, you're
They would be
telling me
favored
that
over
if
both of
Creighton
them.
played North Carolina or Kentucky, or I'll throw in Duke, you think if they played tomorrow in a game that got them in the NCAA tournament or they got bounced from the tournament, that Creighton would beat Kentucky, North Carolina, or Duke?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
Right now.
Fair
right
enough.
now. Yes.
Fair enough.
Right now. As the
Okay.
teams are playing right now. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good enough. We still got to get picks in, right, from the weekend?
Yep. Still got to go over our picks.
Yes, we have them. I mean, do we want to do that now? We could do it now if you want.
Okay, let's do it.
All right.
Okay. Blue Libra, by the way, I owe you an apology. Blue Libra is a Cincinnati guy born and raised. It was the first guy that I talked about that came back from Buffalo. So Blue Libra, I owe you an apology. Okay, move on.
All right. Here we go. First one was Jags and Chiefs.
Jags.
Jags. The late field goal.
Late field goal.
Could you believe that? I was with a guy that actually had a lot of money on that game, and he was ready to get sick.
Yeah.
Like 1,000 others, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what it took. Scrappy. What have I said all year about these, 9, 10-point games? It's hard to cover those big lines because just so much fluky stuff can happen.
Especially in the
But
playoffs.
you picked Kansas City.
I did. I had to zag. All right.
I tell you what, that
jag.
game was an interesting game. We didn't talk about that game at all here today.
We'll get into it
the
later,
Jags, they fell behind. Kansas City did what they needed to do. Mahomes gets hurt, and look, this is why you pay backup quarterbacks big money.
Yeah, I mean.
Right? Or you should. Chad Henne comes in. I mean, if you're a Jaguars fan, you're sitting there going, oh boy, we got a shot. Mahomes goes out. They punt it. It's at the 2-yard line when Henne comes trotting out. And you're thinking, man, we got him right where we want him. 98 yards later, touchdown Kansas City.
It's like Chad Henne can take over that offense and score. And it's like any quarterback can really take over the Chiefs offense and just go down and score.
But not any quarterback can lead him to 5 straight AFC championship games.
Well,
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
Think about that. It was written that Tom Brady took a team to 5 straight championship games, but he had already bypassed when he did it, being 30 years of age. Same thing with Terry Bradshaw. But to think that Patrick Mahomes is 27 years old, 27 years old, and this will be his 5th straight AFC Conference Championship game. He's 2-2. All right, move on.
Next one, Danny Dimes.
Danny Dimes.
Oh, man. That was brutal, Paul.
Whoops.
Oof. That's it. Oof.
I think I turned this game off. Oh, man, I don't know. I think it was early. I did not give this game much time.
God, all I needed was for A.J. Brown to score a touchdown, too, and I would have paid some serious money. But no, everyone else scored on the team.
Boy, did they look good.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Man, did they look good. And that Sirianni guy's got some fire about him, doesn't he? He's all jacked up over there on the sideline.
Oh, yeah.
Should be when you win 38-7.
Sirianni?
No.
Got to make it to Super Bowl.
Don't go there.
I'm not.
All right,
it.
what do we have next?
Cowboys. Casey was, I just want to say, Casey was on the 49ers.
Yeah.
And I'm not bailing him out, but I am saying it. Casey tried to pick up a game here. Was on the 49ers, switched live, wanted to pick up a game, and didn't work out.
I mean, I thought the 49ers were going to win. I just had a little hope there towards the end, but the Cowboys just, man, the Dak, what's –
I just can't believe this PR machine of the Cowboys. The Schultz guy might be a great player. I talked about it in the opening monologue. I cannot believe Greg Olsen did not light him up in that telecast. He mentioned it, but then he let it ride, and maybe there's a lesson to be learned there. But for that play on the sideline, and their chances of scoring were minimal. Okay, they're out of timeouts. They got 45 seconds left. But 49ers are dropping everybody back. Schultz catches the ball. And the rule is, if you don't know, and many of you do know, the rule is the clock will stop if the guy with the ball is running forward and goes out of bounds. Okay, so you can catch the ball, right? Both feet in. Let's say it's on the right sideline. You make a left turn. You make one step forward and then step out of bounds. The clock will stop. If you do what Schultz did, catch the ball on the sideline, it wasn't like his momentum carried him out of bounds. He caught the ball on the sideline and sidestepped out of bounds. Clock keeps rolling. You'd be surprised how many players that play in every sport, and I used to see it all the time in baseball. You'd be surprised how many guys don't know the rules of any sport. You'd be very, very surprised. There are a lot of coaches that don't know. It's hard to keep track of all the rules. It's really hard. But that seems to me it would be receiver 101 or offensive player who's going to touch the ball 101.
Was that last play one of the most laugh-out-loud funny things you've ever seen in your life? What the hell were they doing? Zeke getting blown up? I mean, if I'm Zeke, I'm just walking off the field. I guess he did. The game was over. But you know what I mean. What was going on?
I mean,
what were they doing?
Yeah, what were they doing?
He got railed. I mean, he just got run over.
And then Prescott throws the ball high to the receiver where they can't even get a lateral after the catch because he has to jump up in the air and catch it. Boy, the Cowboys.
That's now, 2-3 years in a row that the Cowboys have mismanaged the end of a game in just spectacular fashion.
Well, they had so many other chances in the game. I mean, San Francisco played great defense. San Francisco did not play a great offensive game, and you give the credit to the Dallas defense. We talked about Dallas's defense. Casey did it linked last week. They've got a great defense, and they came to play. And Dan Quinn had them ready to play. But, I mean, on offense, now Pollard goes down, breaks his leg. That was horrible. And that was a big hit to the Cowboys, there's no doubt. But, I mean, they got Lamb, and then that's it. That's it. That's why we're so lucky right now to having the Bengals, the guys they have. How long they're going to have them, I don't know. But to have these weapons that Joe Burrow has is mind-boggling. All right, then we come to the Bengalis.
One more.
Straight across the board. You guys were singing the song last week.
Who
And you'll be singing it again this Friday.
Absolutely.
5.5.
So somebody went undefeated this week. I was trying to remember who that is.
Oh, Thom, I think it was you.
4-0 week.
But that would officially mean that Paul has clinched this unless we do something different.
Well, you know, boys, like I said last week, I used to play a lot of golf as a younger man. I've not played now in a solid 20 years and don't miss it for a second. But this is where you break out the old press bet.
It is true, but the problem is I think all three of us are probably going to be on the same side of the next 3 games.
Well,
my guess.
then you'd have to. If you're
I don't
behind, you're somebody who better whatever you pick, they pick different.
Pick the Chiefs.
Oh no, you're not catching me doing that.
Oh God,
you're not gonna catch me picking the Chiefs.
You'd rather lose than pick the Chiefs. I don't blame him.
Hey, by the way, I've just received a ton, and we're going to have to use this on Wednesday. I have some of the most ridiculously unbelievable pictures of Marty Brennaman and Mickey Mouse ears you've ever seen in your life.
Oh no, you don't have it ready. You can't send it real quick.
No. Save it for Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll save it for Wednesday.
Which, by the way, we've got to tape that tomorrow after the show. We good on that?
The Marty Brennaman segment.
Yeah,
we can do that.
Because he's out in California, and that'd be a 7 o'clock. Come on the air, and he's 80. We don't want to do that to an 80-year-old guy.
Yeah, we can do that.
7 o'clock in the morning. See him rolling out of the rack. Not good. All right. Do we have UDF cherry on top before we get the box of lunch? We don't have the lunch boxes out there, by the way. Just as an FYI. All right. Do we have anything?
Yep, we got something for you.
All right. What do we got?
We have the press conference. Zach Taylor, after the game. He had a lot of choice words to say. And I just want everyone to take a listen.
Let's hear it.
We had our mindset to go play in Kansas City, and it is tough because they have to formulate the plans for coin tosses, and they got to formulate the plans for neutral site games, and we just keep screwing it up for everybody. And I hate that for people that have to endure all those logistical issues, and then we just keep screwing it up. So I'm sorry.
That's pretty good.
That is pretty funny. I thought it was pretty funny.
Pretty good. Pretty good. All right. We're shifting gears. Going over to box lunch. Trace is trying to kind of rein it all back in after his beloved Jayhawks take a beating from Jamie Dixon and the TCU Horned Frogs.
Yeah.
Fog Allen Fieldhouse on Saturday in Lawrence, Kansas.
Cost me a lot of money.
I'm sorry about that. When I was
it was one of those things where
it cost you money.
Yeah, I learned a lesson. You know, when you're watching a game and you're like, this isn't going to be sustainable. What I'm watching right now is not going to keep up. TCU, which I don't want to talk about college basketball today. We're not going to get into that. We got a whole slate of football. But when TCU's hit 3 threes, averages 3 threes a game, Tom, and they're 6 for 9 in the first half, and Kansas was like 1 for 12 on layups. I'm like this, and they're down 10. I made a irrational decision and put a little too much money on Kansas to take care of business in the second half. It didn't happen, but hey, live and you learn.
It's all about the Bengals, though, boys. Reed, you're sending out those tired pictures yesterday, holding your fingers up. You and Paul and Casey and Brandon and all these guys, on the sidelines.
We had you in on it.
3, 4 quarters.
Whoa. Can we flash? Tom sent one too, Tom.
I decided to be a team player, and when you sent it out for the second quarter and everybody's holding their 2 fingers up, all right, I took a selfie, put the 2 fingers up. From that second on,
they continued
Buffalo
to dominate.
Right down the field. Bengals had like 7 possessions before the kneel down at the end where they scored on 5 of them. Of course, after we went up the pictures around, they got 3 and out or whatever it was. And so it went right in the toilet. So when you start sending them out for the third quarter and the fourth quarter and all that nonsense, I said, I'm out. I'm done. Tired.
Tom.
Do you win?
Tom. You sending that picture had no effect on the Bengals game. Had no effect. Jinxes don't exist. Superstitions don't exist. Keep sending the pictures.
Thom clearly is he's a Jinx guy. He's on Casey and Trace's side of this.
He's on our side.
Clearly, Paul.
Correct
me if I'm wrong. Did you guys send any more pictures?
Yeah.
You did, Paul. Casey, you didn't send any more.
Well,
you were at the game.
Signal may have
couldn't
been
get
bad.
to see
Signal may have
all
been bad.
that. No service, that nonsense stuff. In the
I was
stadium.
just too hyped to. I wasn't hardly even looking at my phone half the time. I was more focused on the game, honestly. But I would have been sending my fingers if I was at home.
Thom, you were making fun of the Michelob Ultras I was drinking.
I was. Have you seen those commercials? They're some of the best commercials. And look, I'm not a big. I've had 1,000 Mick Ultras, but have you seen those commercials they're running during the playoff games about the guy walks up and he's got the 12-pack of Mick Ultra and the guy behind the counter has got the haircut, one more calorie than, have you seen these commercials?
Yeah.
Great spots.
95
You had a whole
calories.
bucket full of them in front of you there.
The mayor of Hamilton bought that for me.
Of course he did.
He was at the drink right down the road from our office here, and the mayor, Pat Moeller, said, "You guys are bringing a lot of energy. Here's a bucket of beer." Bought us a bucket of beer. That's the camaraderie we get here in the city of Sculpture of Hamilton, Ohio.
Amen, brother.
Bringing the juice.
Amen. Anybody that sends a bucket of beer is okay by me.
Hey, good man.
It's the way it's the way all beer should be sold, by the bucket.
Thom, Ken City USA had a question earlier in the show. I think you were actually out of the room when he asked the question. The question was how close are the restrooms inside of a press box for announcers?
Right? I mean, it all depends. Most of the ballparks, it's right there. You got 90 seconds in and out, bam, no problem. There are a couple of them where obviously they didn't put any thought, not just to the TV announcers, the radio announcers, but to the members of the press entirely, where like in Denver, right? In Denver, you have great ballpark, love the town, whole 9 yards. But you've got the writing press, it's on one level, and you got to go up 2 stairwells up to where the electronic press is up on the second level. There's no bathroom on the second level.
So when you're calling a game, what do you do?
You got to sprint. You got to go. You got to go.
I didn't know if they just put a trough in the hallway or something like that. Don't know how they do it in Denver. In San Francisco, they do it in the streets, though, right? They just...
Don't take me there. Don't take me there. This has been a very positive, enlightening show outside of the debate with Paul about college basketball, which we have plenty of time to get to that. Lord knows we're praying the Bengals keep winning.
Thom, we're going to Arrowhead.
Because then we get to start talking about Alabama. Can't wait for that. Can't wait to talk about the Houston Cougars. Just lost to Temple. Boy, now there's some teams to get excited about. Alabama, Houston.
Who's the biggest
Number 2 team gets blown out of the gym at home. Finished 7-9 in your conference. Hey, welcome to the NCAA tournament. You're in.
Thom, we going out to Arrowhead this Sunday?
No. You're going though, right? All you guys are going. You're going on the big fun. You're going to the Allen Fieldhouse, right?
That is happening. We'll talk about it at the end of this show. We got to come up with a game plan.
Game plan what?
We got a game plan. We got a game plan this week. We got to sort it out. We got to figure out what's going on. The original plan obviously did not encompass the idea of the Bengals playing in Arrowhead for the AFC Championship. So that was never in the works. And then last week, I think we started deciding on what game we were going to go to out there, and we chose the Kansas State game, and then we realized that 2 days prior to that was the AFC Championship game. It just so happened to possibly be in Kansas City. So then we started kind of, starting some rumor mills a little bit last week. And then we were like, well, let's just wait and see. Let's not try to plan all this out. Let's just figure it out as it happens. It just so happens that the Bengals win. So now we got to do some sorting
So
out.
I assume you guys have already started to look into it. What are the tickets going for?
Not cheap.
Yeah, it was like the lowest one was like $380 that I saw.
And that's way up?
Yeah, that's way up there.
That's without fees too.
And that's without
yeah.
that was without
My guess
fees.
is they get in like out of pocket probably close to $500 right now. Like we'll talk at the end of the show. It's on the segment KC plans. Well, what do? We got to wait it out a little bit. I think that it's like one of those situations where it's like super high at the beginning, and then maybe that people are like, I don't really want to spend that much money, and then by Wednesday.
And I think that's happened for most of these games, right?
Yeah.
For most of these games, Casey, you were looking at the last minute. You bought last Friday, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Haven't they come down a little bit, or were they still right where they pretty much started?
I mean, we bought them. We were looking at tickets. I don't think they didn't price gouge us at all. I mean, they were like $170 most of the time throughout the entire time that we were looking. I mean,
what about that in Buffalo, by the way? Tickets were relatively affordable to get in.
Yeah.
Last home game of the year for Buffalo, regardless.
Yep.
You can't make the excuse they were looking past the Bengals and they were waiting for the next game to splurge or something like that. Maybe they did splurge all their money for their trip to Atlanta that they're never going to take. But having said that, what about the idea that last night you could clearly hear Houday chants like middle of the third?
Yeah.
And Casey's saying it wasn't even that impressive.
Well,
bad look for the Bills Mafia.
Look,
just saying.
I got a thought. To begin with, I think we forget at the end of the day how small Buffalo is. I'm not sure if the NFL were expanding right now. Okay, if they were expanding, there's no way the Green Bay Packers would get a team. Green Bay would get it. I mean, it's not even a thought, right? Milwaukee maybe, but not Green Bay, right? Buffalo is A, not a very big city. B, I was amazed, and I saw it in person when I took our son up on a college visit to Syracuse. I was amazed at how devastating the pandemic was to people there in that state because of the way they shut that place down. I mean, people lost everything up there. We went into Syracuse University. I'd never been there before. And this was after we had not been wearing masks in Ohio for months. We pull up at 10 o'clock at night, right in the middle of campus on a Thursday night. Now, I know Miami of Ohio. I know Athens, Ohio. You pull up in the middle of a campus on a Thursday night, it's rolling.
Sure.
Right? I mean, big time rolling.
There's Thursday.
I say to the guy comes trotting out, valet guy, little hotel right there. He comes trotting out, he's got a mask on. I'm going, everything all right? He's like, yeah. I said, listen, it's 10 o'clock. My son and I are looking to get something to eat. Is that the main kind of drag through campus over there? He says, yeah. I said, well, it looks pretty dark. I said, what's the deal? He says, whole place is shut down. Every place has gone out of business.
Oh, my God.
Every single one of them. And I'm like, you got to be kidding. He's like, I'm not kidding at all. And he said, and by the way, before you walk in that door, you better find a face mask. And so I proceeded to learn over the next 48 hours being there in upstate New York and all over that state. I mean, I think there are a lot of people that have been, their lives have been completely devastated, fiscally devastated, along with, of course, emotionally in some cases. But, yeah, I'm not surprised at all that happened in Buffalo.
Now, damn it, Tom, we're over here. I'm trying to say the
You're
Bills
trying to
Mafia.
just beat up the Bills.
I'm trying to say the Bills
I laid it out.
Mafia
I gave you
isn't
the
all
facts.
that big and bad.
Just like Paul. I
And
gave you
you
nothing
come
but the
in
facts.
here and you want to sit here and talk about how their lives have been turned upside down
They
and
have.
wrecked. And now I'm going to go up here and I'm going to talk about how, first of all, the first subject matter we'll get to
All right.
on the show, which is, you can say I'm a hater, whatever you want to, but the big bad Bills were never the big bad Bills. They never belonged to be in that pedestal they've been put on. They've never won a damn thing. And all of a sudden, now we're supposed to believe they're not the Minnesota Vikings?
I'm with you.
We'll get into that in a minute.
All right. Boys, enjoy it. Gentlemen, great job. Paul, is Alabama on tonight?
They're the number 2 team in the country.
I
Thom.
thought Kansas was.
New poll just came out 5 minutes ago. Number 2, Purdue's number 1.
We're the Muskies.
Dropped to 13, still the highest ranked Big East team though. Where'd Kansas go? Kansas is 9.
Connecticut drop off?
Connecticut is 19.
Oh, really?
Providence is 23, Connecticut's 19, and Marquette's 16.
Okay, there you go. Take it away, boys.
Thanks, Tom.
All right.
I must admit, I didn't think much of this show the first time I laid eyes on it. Seemed like a bunch of stiffs wasting nice
The worst trade
microphones.
of all time happened back in 1803. Go ahead. Napoleon Bonaparte traded the Louisiana Purchase for $3 million. Napoleon
What happened? Half the country for $3 million. You can't even get Tucker Barnhart for $3 million.
Then I came to realize these guys are funny.
And Justin Fields have identical stats the last 5 weeks about throwing the football. This guy, okay,
And
folks,
are
is a
some of the
fidget
best
spinner.
gamblers I've come to know.
If you're betting on USC and or TCU, let it be known you are a square.
TCU is going to hammer this team tomorrow night.
I hate to hear that.
Tomorrow
when we come back
afternoon.
in here on Monday, you're going to be happy as a lark because USC lost, but you're going to be wrong about TCU.
Get ready for the most useless hour of your day. It's time for Boxed Lunch, presented by Betfred Sportsbook. Now, Casey, run that track.
All right, it's Box Lunch, and I will tell you this. I am very thankful we continue to have viewership, and I am thankful that the Bengals won. And somehow in the chat earlier, I was called a hater, and we will get into that in just a minute. Paul,
Trace?
what a hell of a time you've had there earlier. You were just on the hill, fighting and dying on that hill, baby. for
God,
college
somebody's
basketball.
got to, baby. Somebody's got to die on that hill, and I'll be damned if it's not me.
You got Reader in the building.
Tracer.
Seho, who's become famous on social media for making signs. And then we got McAllister, who, I'll be honest, I was worried that if the Bengals didn't play well, if I didn't know if we were going to have a staff to be able to even run a show. We
Hey,
had
Team
two
Buffalo.
guys.
Team Buffalo, we're back.
We're back.
You guys made
Gamers!
it. You guys are gamers. I'll be honest, because the first question that was asked today was, is Casey or
You thought I was not going to be
is
here.
Casey or Brandon going to be in here? And I got to be honest, Sean out there said, I doubt it. I don't think so. Boom. Here they are. Better than ever. So we'll get into this opening subject. Trace is a hater. I will admit, I was on the fence with the Bengals for a very long time. Very long time. But I have always stuck by one thing, and that is the Bengals have number 9. And as long as they have number 9, they're dangerous, right? But I'm not going to stand here and take this slander from the chat about this Bills take that I've had for the past few weeks after I dug into their schedule a little bit. And I got a question for you guys. This is the problem I have more than likely with Mahomes in a little bit of a way, is that they get put on this pedestal that I feel like they don't deserve to be on quite yet, like the Bills have been put on. Like it or not, at the beginning of the year, the Bills were supposed to go to the Super Bowl. They were the team that were one of the best teams in the AFC. And the only thing they've truly done, and let's not get into the fact that Josh Allen has been called one of the most elite quarterbacks in the league for the past 2 or 3 or 4 years at this point. And what have they won? What have they actually done to give them that praise? And I'm not saying that, I am coming around on the idea that I think the national media is giving the Bengals their flowers. I think that at this point, it's safe to say that the Bengals are going to be put in the conversation at the very, very top. But they haven't been. And you want to sit here and say that the Bills are not frauds, but the Vikings are frauds? Like, this is my point. If the Vikings are frauds, then the Bills are frauds. Because they're the exact same team. They're the exact same situation this year. They won a lot of games, yes. But when they had to play against elite competition, sometimes they regressed. And you start to wonder, well, maybe it's just like Josh Allen turns the ball over too much in the red zone. They'll figure that out. It'll all get fixed. Listen, the Bills got bullied yesterday. Like, straight up bully town. They could play that game 10 out of 10 times, guys. That is not going to – the outcome's the same every time. The Bengals win every time. And you could say, oh, well, yeah, it might have been just like an off day for the Bills. No. You don't get pushed around like that. And you also don't get put in a situation like they were put in to where middle of the second quarter, you're starting to think to yourself, at least I was, this is going to be a blowout. And for all intents and purposes, guys, I don't know how you felt about it. It felt like a blowout to me. It might not look like a blowout from a score perspective, but it never felt in doubt, ever. Were you ever nervous at all?
I mean, this is the same point I made on Tom's show. I was nervous just as a Bengals fan because I thought, at any point, Josh Allen could drive down the field, Stephon Diggs could get behind somebody, Eli Apple could bite on a double move, and something could happen that could just change the game on a dime. When it's 17-10 going into halftime, you throw one pick six or whatever. When Burrow came out there with 40 seconds left, I'm thinking, do they just take a knee here and just try and go into the halftime with the lead? Because you're thinking, okay, you've played so well to this point. You've done everything right. You've pushed all the right buttons. and then you go out there at the end of the half and you throw a pick six, and it's tied, and the Bills get the ball to start the second half. That's where you're nervous, but that's where you have to take a step back as a neutral observer of the game, as somebody that just, could be a Commanders fan watching this game, an NFL fan, and say that this game was really never in doubt.
As a Cincinnati fan, you have to buck that trend, because I had the same feeling. You're watching the game and you're like, oh man, how are we gonna lose this one? Like, how's
well, I wasn't feeling that. It was just nerves as a fan of the team. I never was like cursed or anything like that.
Right, but that's where we have to buck it, and I agree, because for years, for decades, you're just sitting around going like, we lose this game, or we're cursed, we're losers. That's gone. The Bills are not better than the Bengals. They never were. And you know what? I actually thank the Lord a little bit that we didn't play that Monday Night Football game, because the same thing would have happened on that Monday Night Football. The Bengals would have just ransacked the Bills at home in front of national media. And then the Bills might have taken this game. I don't know what game planning they did before that game, but it clearly wasn't good enough. Can you imagine going back to week 2? And I'm telling you that Zach Taylor is going to coach circles around Sean McDermott.
The whole staff.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
No one would take it for a second, and that's what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
And like I said, I've sat up here and I've kind of jokingly made fun of the whole Lou Cooks thing, and I still, to a certain extent, think the second half adjustments is a laughable notion at times. But I will say that
dollar.
That's fine. I'll take as many. I've lost plenty of dollars on the Kansas Jayhawks and
Kansas.
the Cowboys, by the way. The Dak Prescott did not
Did you
help
bet on
me
the
out.
Bills?
I bet on the Bills. Yeah, I bet on the Bills. But the thing with the Bills is that wasn't when I put all my eggs in one basket for. So, but the Cowboys I did. We'll get back to that subject in a little bit later. Cowboys are. I don't know. Dak Prescott is you got to move on.
We'll get to it later.
Yeah, we will. So the I don't even know where I was at on my point. The situation with the Bengals and the Bills, I don't know what we were talking about, but one thing that I took away from that game with Lou was that he brought some packages that obviously completely baffled Allen. To where Allen made a guy miss somehow that he didn't even see coming. There was a couple blitzes by I think maybe Britt was coming on one of them, and he just completely whiffed Allen. I'm like, how did he miss him? But maybe it was the snow, maybe it was whatever. And I will give some credit to Lou Anarumo finally on this show.
Hell yeah.
I can't sit here and just say every week it's a mystical myth that somehow they don't give up second half touchdowns. So here I am. I'll just eat whatever you want to call it. I could say that I was wrong.
Eat crow.
I could say I can eat my crow, whatever that phrase is. Which I don't, that seems like a weird phrase. I'm going to have to Google that. Like, where does eat crow come from? I'm sure we can Google it. People in the chat will let me know. But I would give him credit. And I think from a Bills perspective, to your point, would they have, and it's all hypothetical, who gives a rat's, you know what, at the end of the day. But I do think the Bengals absolutely slaughtered the Bills on Monday Night Football. Because the first two drives of the game looked very similar to every single drive in the snow. So at the end of the day, there wasn't anything different from what happened on Monday night for the short amount of time they played to the entire time in Buffalo. And maybe you could say that if they did smack the Bills on Monday night, as you've said, maybe there's a different game plan. Maybe they take it a little more serious. But I don't get into the notion that they're not going to take that game serious, right? It's a big divisional game at home. It's hard to think that the Buffalo Bills would need something else different to happen to them to play better in that game. I just think, quite frankly, they were not the better team, and they aren't the better team. And maybe it was like I said before, it's not taking anything away from the Bengals and what they did. Genuinely, I just think that there was this narrative around the Bills for far too long that we put them on a pedestal that they never deserved to be on. And the Bengals exposed that yesterday. And they exposed it not in like, you know, one of those situations where Joe Burrow gets hot and he makes some throws he probably can't make all that often. No, it was straight up just turn around, hand the ball to Joe Mixon for 8, 9, 10 yards a carry, and then turn around on defense, and Allen's basically getting folded up like a pretzel on half the place. There was nothing fluky about that win, guys. Nothing. I mean, you couldn't even imagine that happening, though, as a Bengals fan, right? Like when you were when you were driving up there to Buffalo, the two of you, in the back of your mind, you had to be like, dude, I just hope we play well.
You can ask my mom. I turned to her like 10 minutes when they ran on the field, I said the Bengals are going to kick their ass today.
Yeah, there was definitely
there was some weird like feeling.
I felt the same way right before the
and it was electric.
Oh
it was
gosh,
an electric
it was.
factory. It was wild.
I think it was just seeing how much of the Bengals fan base was there.
Yeah, that was
how hype we all were. I mean, we literally dominated the space.
Yeah, no, they had their what's the Buffalo chant that they do?
Let's go
Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Let's go Buffalo.
Yeah. That was cool a couple times, and it was loud for like a couple third downs, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
the drive back was a lot better with that win.
Yes, it was.
Guys, have you ever seen a quarterback regress like Josh Allen has without Brian Daboll?
Yeah,
Brian Daboll goes to the
Glad
New
you
York
brought that up.
Giants, turns Danny Dimes into a serviceable quarterback, although he played like crap. But Josh Allen has taken not one large step back, but 3 leaps backwards as a quarterback without Brian Daboll. Their game plan, and I joked about this, is that all season long it's just like, oh, the Bills just snap it to Josh Allen and let him be great. That was their game plan. They tell the wide receivers like almost backyard football, go deep and just snap it to Josh Allen and we'll see what happens. They did that the entire game. They never changed, and it never worked. They never changed.
Yeah, the game plan was terrible, and it was like in the first half they were running the ball, and you would think in the footing of that game where the offense clearly has an edge because the defense has to react to whatever the offensive player is doing. The offense always has an edge in a snow environment like that, and they just weren't utilizing them the right way.
Right.
It was bizarre.
I agree. I felt like there was times in that game where you would assume that the Bills were going to utilize the legs of Josh Allen on purpose. You know, even the touchdown run that they had, that made sense because it was a short yardage situation.
Yeah,
but in a game like that, it just felt like you would use that more. If you need a 1st and 10 play, if it's a 1st and 10 on your own 30, and you need a good 5 or 6 yard chunk play, why not just use him as a running back, have an extra blocker, and just roll out and get your 5 or 6 yards and then move on? They never did that one time. No. But to be fair, there might have been a situation to where I felt like they felt like they were outmatched on the edges because it did feel like every play, whether it was Hubbard or Hendrickson, one of them was getting what seemed like pressure. And DJ Reader's continuing to show why he's one of the better interior linemen, at least in my opinion, in the league, because he continues to find ways to get in the backfield. And at some point, I think you have to admit, as an NFL fan, not obviously Bengals fans have been preaching this for a long time, but when you're a fan of your own team, it is what it is. You're naturally going to always think your team's probably a little bit better than they truly are, and that's the way it should be. I'm not suggesting that Bengal fans are in the wrong for that, but at least as an outside perspective, it's starting to feel like the Bengals, it's not a fluke anymore. It's not like, oh, they won by 1 score every single playoff game last year. They play in a division that they kind of mucky it up, and then all of a sudden, when you got to go play the big boys, if you will, something bad's going to happen. Joe Burrow, in my opinion, at this point, has to be considered the best quarterback in the league for my money. And I'm not, again, as you know, a Bengal fan or a homer, but I've been saying it. He does more, not with less, because he has a lot of weapons, but he does more with his legs than people want to give him credit for. He always finds ways to move around in a pocket, extend time, buy time, make a throw. And it doesn't need to be the Patrick Mahomes stuff. It doesn't need to be, he needs to spin out of the pocket, run around like a madman, and then throw one sideways, sidearms that gets played on SportsCenter for the next 2 weeks. Just the first play where they scored a touchdown on the opening drive, not a lot of quarterbacks step up like that, keep their eyes downfield, and then make a play and throw the ball obviously to Jamar on not a broken play, but it felt a little bit like a broken play, right? I'm not saying anything that the chat doesn't know or you guys don't know, but I don't see how they lose in Kansas City. I sent that text. Maybe I'm a square. I know most of the time when I talk on here, I do look at betting metrics. I don't even care about the betting metrics, dude. I really don't. I just don't see, and we'll get into the next point, how they could lose to Kansas City, which brings me to my next question to you guys. Do you change the offensive line at all? Even if one of those guys comes back and say they're ready to go, they can play. If they're not 100%, I wouldn't change it at all. Your thoughts on that?
I'd bring Kappa back.
Yeah, Kappa.
I think I would bring Kappa back. Now, if you want to talk about Jonah Williams or Jackson Carman, it's kind of maybe Jackson Carman was a left tackle all along. That's what he played.
He struggled at the easier positions. We put him at the hardest one. He just wanted to step up to a challenge.
It's a natural position. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But I would bring Kappa back for sure.
Yeah, if Kappa can play 100%, you put him on the inside because he is a significant upgrade. But Jonah Williams isn't a huge upgrade over Jackson Carman, and dare I say that it might be at the same level. So, yeah, you keep Jackson Carman. You keep that mojo rolling. But if Kappa can come back, you put Kappa.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. And like I said, I checked the chat. Emperor, he's on my ass saying that obviously I'll come around after they've won all these games. Listen, if you don't want to accept the fact that I've all along have pointed out things that are relatively true and insightful because of those betting analytics, then you've been living underneath a rock. Period. So the Bengals are the one team that has bucked that trend from time to time, and I will openly admit that. And I think I've taken the stance that I think that number 9 is largely the reason why they've bucked that trend. And sometimes you can't. There's analytics and then there's tangibles, right? There's things that you can put on paper and you can make it make sense, and then there's things that you just can't. And Joe Burrow's one of those guys. I think he's one of those guys to where you can't just go off of analytics when Joe Burrow's playing a football game, because he does things that are things that you can't put on paper, like leadership and finding ways to give guys the confidence that they're going to make plays. And he doesn't yell at his guys. There was one time that Reed brought up outside to where it's the first time he's ever really seemed like he was yelling at someone on the field. He got obviously visibly upset at his offensive line not being able to see a blitz coming, where he just spiked the football on the ground and was getting on somebody's ass pretty good. I don't know who it was specifically,
I think it was Jackson.
But Joe Burrow elevates guys around him. It feels like genuinely he's always going to make the play when you need him to make the play.
He's a real man.
And he is. He is a real man. But Emperor, it's laugh out loud funny saying that those metrics haven't done much for me. But Casey, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Not that this is fair for you to do, but I'm watching that game as a square. I watched the Kansas City game as a square. How in the hell can Kansas City compete in this game? Can you do the opposite of what you normally would do right now? Can you explain to me how Kansas City could possibly play in this game and win?
Well, they are really good at getting to the quarterback. They do a really good job at blitzing, and I think what the Bengals were really good at last time they met at Paycor, they were really good at picking up the blitzes, and I don't really think Buffalo blitzed that much against the Bengals. They were comfortable with just rushing 4 ineffectively. So I would say that would be their way to do it. Lots of stunts, lots of blitzing. And you'd have to get to Joe Burrow quickly, because he's getting the ball out 2.4 seconds just about every play. That's about his average right now, is 2.4 seconds. And I mean, other than that, I don't see how that they can stop them. I mean, we're going to have Joe Mixon back. We didn't have him against the Chiefs. We're going to have Hayden Hurst back. He got hurt early in that game. I think that might have been DJ Reader's first game back. Might have been. He might have been back a little bit sooner than that. But, man, this Bengals team, it's really hard to look at that Buffalo Bills game. And, I mean, if you think that they're frauds, too, just like the Vikings, then you can't take much from this game. But if you believed in the hype of the Buffalo Bills, then you got to just wonder how they don't win this game in Kansas City.
Well, it's not. Listen, when I say that the Bills are frauds, it doesn't mean I don't take anything away from the Bengals. It doesn't mean that I don't think the Bengals are good. What I'm saying is, if the Bills are as good as everyone told me they were, and they're as good as everyone perceived them to be, they don't get dominated like that. You do not get dominated. It doesn't mean the Bengals are not good. That's the farthest thing from what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, could you imagine a football team being told all year long, they're so physical, they're going to dominate you up front, don't want to go play them in the cold in Buffalo, and then all that happens, and you know what happens? The Bengals, who have 3 starting offensive linemen that aren't even playing because they're hurt, literally walk up there and dominate them. So you can't sit here and tell me that they're not frauds. That's what I feel. That's how I feel about it. But it doesn't mean that the two have to be equal The Bengals aren't as good as everyone thought they were because the Bills are frauds. That's not what I'm saying, and that's not what anyone's saying. But you're never going to get my respect if you let someone else walk into your own building, bully you when you got 3 offensive linemen out. Yeah. Ever. Now, I will say, I do think that the I do think that the snow helped. That helped the offensive line. I don't know how much it helped them, but it probably helped the pass rushing from a standpoint of trying to keep Joe Burrow clean for Carmen. Carmen looked really good in that game. Maybe it was just the fact that you have to put him at the position that he's most natural at, similar to Eugenio Suarez. You know, like if you move a guy from a certain position to another position, the whole thing can go to hell in a handbasket, as they say. So I'm not out on Carmen. I'm not saying just because the snow happened was the only reason that they did a good job. But it does factor a little bit into my thought process as, okay, you get these guys on a clean field. Will Carmen look the same? I don't know. No one knows. But I do think that Joe Burrow, as people have pointed out in the past, he'll find a way. He will find a way. It doesn't matter. Like, last year's offensive line is worse than this year's offensive line, yes or no?
Yes.
It is. They went to the Super Bowl with that offensive line. Second point I want to make about Kansas City. Has their defense gotten so much better from 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, Casey, to where you could say, out of all those things, the Bengals aren't going to score 24 points?
Well, I mean, you asked me to do the opposite of what I normally do.
I know, but I'm saying, like, can the Bengals, we know, are going to score 24 points, at least.
Yeah, at least.
Which brings me to the next subject. Patrick Mahomes is not playing in this football game.
What?
He is not, guys.
He's going to play.
There's no way.
He's going to play.
There's no way. The only way he's going to play is this. They legit are going to do some ridiculous medical things, shoot him up, make his whole entire situation numb, and he's still going to go out there hobbling around and not be he's going to be at very best, he's going to be the same guy he was in the second half of that Jags game. And I will say it. You think I'm a Mahomes hater? You think I'm a Mahomes hater? You can say whatever you want. Chad Henne's a better quarterback, fully healthy, than Patrick Mahomes was in the second half of that football game. Are we going to all just look past the fact that Chad Henne came in and went 99 yards, touchdown? That must have been a myth. Go ahead, tell me that was a fluke. Go ahead and tell me that Chad Henne came in at the 1 yard line, marched all the way down the field on a cold. By the way, didn't even get a chance to hardly warm up. They probably threw like 4 passes on the sideline, came out, marched right down the field, and somehow I'm told, it's all Mahomes. Everything out there in Kansas City is Mahomes. He's the best quarterback since the game was invented. And you're going to convince me that Chad Henne's not a better option at quarterback, fully healthy, than Mahomes is the way that he was? He's not playing, guys. I mean, look it up. We'll try to get on. Maybe we'll get Krimchek on here tomorrow. I don't know who we get on here. I'm just saying there's no way in hell that you're going to come back from the way that he was acting with a high ankle sprain in 6 days. Not happening.
I don't see how he doesn't play. I think they're going to do exactly what you said and shoot him up, make him numb. I don't think he would allow himself not to play.
I agree.
But I will not.
That's about 50 cents in the jar.
Yeah, we're there.
50 cents. The Chiefs have a really good system regardless, and I think that was proven. Chad Henne drove down the field. I know they relied a lot on the run game. He only had like 30 yards passing, but that was enough to get the job done. The offense is really good, guys. I mean, they've got a really good offensive line. They got some decent running backs back there. One of the greatest tight ends of all time still, and decent enough receivers that they could get the job done with Chad Henne. I really do believe that. But
I'll take the Bengals against Chad.
What's the better system? Trace in college football or the Chiefs?
I really think that Andy Reid's system helps quarterbacks out a lot more than we think. I mean, just look at the past quarterbacks in his system, and you can't tell me that they weren't significantly benefited from his system. Donovan McNabb played really well as an Eagle. He goes over to Washington, and he stinks. Same thing with Michael Vick. He came out of jail and was productive right away. I mean, Alex Smith, same thing with him. Really productive, had a great season, then goes to Washington, funny enough, and doesn't do that well.
Where quarterbacks go to die. Washington.
The Commanders. FedEx Field.
Are we? The question I'm asking the group and the chat: are we going to sit here and act like Mahomes on one leg is better than Chad Henne with the way that it looked?
I don't know the answer to that question because it really does depend on how mobile Patrick Mahomes is. If he looks as bad, if he's as mobile as he was in the second half, then yeah, probably Chad Henne's your better play there. But I cannot imagine a world in which Patrick Mahomes doesn't at least try to play.
So what are we doing about this from a gambling perspective? Because it opened last night, the Bengals were plus money, and then very quickly the Bengals were minus 105.
It was 1.5, and then yeah.
So what are we waiting to hear about Mahomes? Because you're playing this game right now where if you wait and then they say later in the week that Mahomes, like, the sprain isn't looking good, he's not practicing Wednesday, Thursday, he's not practicing. Then you're like, oh, man.
I already took the Bengals.
The Bengals are going to be favored by the time things roll
Yeah,
around.
so if Chad Henne – so you got to think Patrick Mahomes is worth at least a touchdown. And they're split in the middle right now. To say that if it comes out that Chad Henne is going to start, then it's probably Bengals 2.5, 3.5. But if they come out later in the week and it's Patrick Mahomes is definitely starting, he's going to play, then I think the line moves down to right around a field goal.
Which is why you should get your line right now on Betfred. Go get it right now. Go to Betfred.
Betfred Sportsbook.
Get your +1.
You have to bet the Bengals right now if you're going to bet the Bengals. It's not going to get any better, in my opinion. If it comes out that Mahomes is playing, I don't think the line moves a bit.
Really?
No. Why would it? I mean, at some point, why would it? I mean, this is where I just don't get the whole Kansas City thing. I don't understand it. They went to Cincinnati. They got beat with the best player. Everybody's healthy. Perfect situation. They got beat last year, right? Mm-hmm. Worst offensive line for Joe Burrow. You could argue the defense is relatively the same. If not, I'd argue the defense is a little bit better for the Bengals. They still went into Kansas City and won. At what point do you just say maybe, just maybe, Joe Burrow's better than Patrick Mahomes, and the Bengals are just better than Kansas City? And this is coming from a guy that's not a Bengals fan. Because that's why I took the Bengals, because I don't give a damn if Patrick Mahomes is playing or not, because I've seen all I need to see.
So then is it better to take the Bengals to win the Super Bowl right now at plus 275?
No.
So here's what's crazy about if we're going to talk about Super Bowl futures, and you want to talk about how just mind-effed people were with the Buffalo Bills. Coming into yesterday's game, the Bills still had the best Super Bowl odds. And that was after the Chiefs and the Eagles punched their ticket to the conference championship. So the Bills had to win 3 games, and those teams had to win 2, and they had better odds to win the Super Bowl. And then on top of that, the Bengals dominated for a half. We're up 10 points, and guess what the line was at halftime? It was still Bengals -3.
What is it about this Bengals team? And I will admit, I've been on the wrong side of this for a long time. I've lost money betting against the Bengals. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm done with it. What is it in Vegas? What is it in Vegas that they don't understand? How can you sit here with a straight face and say to yourself that no matter what happens, whether Mahomes plays on a half of a foot or a half of a leg or whatever the hell he's got left, is better than, which that's what they're saying, is better than the Cincinnati Bengals that you've watched all year long?
I think with a healthy Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. I said that last week. I'll stand with it. And I know they've lost 3 times, but still, I think that they are the best team in the NFL without a doubt. This is why put the thing. This is why in North Korea propaganda matters, because if you push a notion for long enough, everyone believes it. Even the people that root for a certain team start to believe that Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs are the team in the NFL. They can't be beat. They're the best team. But you know what? Just a few weeks ago, they came into Cincinnati, and what happened? They got taken to the woodshed. And now all of a sudden, I'm supposed to believe that the Kansas City Chiefs are the favorite to win the Super Bowl? Have you seen the Eagles play? Have you seen the 49ers play? I watched Kansas City play last week. And I'll tell you this right now, there's some fortune balances to happen for Kansas City, or they might have lost to the 9-8 Jaguars, or whatever they are now. What are they, 10-8?
Yeah.
I'm done with the notion that Kansas City is put on this pedestal. You know who it reminds me of? It reminds me of the Buffalo Bills. So I'm just here to say, I'll eat my words if I'm wrong, and that's fine. I'll admit that I'm wrong. If Chad Henne doesn't play in this football game and Patrick Mahomes does play, forget it. The Bengals are going to smack him. Smash him. In fact, what might happen on the first or second drive of the game, Patrick Mahomes is going to be wobbling back there, and Hendrickson or Sam Hubbard's going to come around the edge, and it'll be completely done.
Can you imagine if we get the pressure that we got yesterday against the Bills? Think about how many sacks that Josh Allen evaded just by moving to his left or right. If we get the exact same pressure that we got last night against a wobbly Patrick Mahomes.
Well, I think that Trace makes a really good point there, because if you game plan all week with Patrick Mahomes and Hendrickson comes in on play number 3 of the opening drive, and all of a sudden Mahomes is like, yeah, I can't do this. Like, I take one hit, I'm out of the game. Now, if you're smart, you're Andy Reid and you're the Chiefs, and you know they are, you're game planning with Chad Henne too here if it's really that bad. But are we going to do a Lamar Jackson round 2 here where it's Friday and we still don't know? We're going to do this all week again?
Yeah.
Are we doing this thing? Are you DMing Chad Henne on Sunday just in case?
Man of Michigan. I got to DM everybody on Sunday.
That's what I'm saying.
We're going to go into Sunday and we're still not sure who's going to play. Guys, Patrick Mahomes is going to try and play.
Oh, he's playing.
Yeah, he's going
to try and play.
He's going to, yeah. Whether he lasts a full drive and takes one hit and has to come out, I don't know.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, whether that's not the right decision for him to play or not is the debatable part, in my opinion. But he will play. He will try to play.
I could see a part where, or a game where they have Chad Henne start, Bengals go up 14-0. Then
get fresh arm in there.
Then you bring Patrick Mahomes in, and you're like, all right, it's over, or our season could be over. We need him to save us. Even if it's on one leg.
I think it's the opposite.
God, that would suck. Could you imagine? Could you imagine the Bengals are winning 10-0, 14-0, Mahomes comes in. Yeah. Jackson starts doing his TikToks. Then all the vibes go to Kansas City.
If I make a sign, if I was going to the game, if I made a sign instead of Skyline and Buffalo Wings, it'd have to be like Burrow's parents greater than Patrick Mahomes' significant other and brother. I mean, like that's. Yeah.
Randy Johnson was a hell of a pitcher. One could argue Randy Johnson was one of the best pitchers Major League Baseball has ever seen. But if he had a broken left arm, he wouldn't be a very good pitcher, would he? If Patrick Mahomes can't run around like damn Superman or whatever you want to call him, if he can't run around and do all the crazy stuff he does, he's not that guy. So, I guess in all of this talk, I'm taking the Bengals now before they announce that he's not going to play, because that's what they would do if they were smart. And then the line swells up or whatever happens. But you know what? Put it this way. If the Bengals somehow, some way, become even more underdogs because he's going to announce that he's going to play, then I'll just bet it twice.
Hell yeah.
I bet the Bengals 6 times yesterday.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
1-800.
Up 16 units. I'll take it. The other thing about this game, or just maybe about the Bengals in general, is if you think in baseball, there are times in a baseball game, whether it's mostly like a perfect game or a no-hitter, where you think back to the moment, right? You think back to Dwayne Wise's catch and Mark Burley's perfect game. I think back to the 2019 –
my heart pumping.
I think back to the 2019 World Series run for the Nationals, and I think back to the wild card game where the Nationals were losing in the 8th inning of that game. Juan Soto comes up with the bases loaded, hits a ball to right field, a line drive against the Brewers. Nationals go on and win that game. But they were down to essentially their final shot at it, and they resurrected themselves, and they win the game. And not only they win the game, they went on and won the World Series. I'm just picturing a world where 3 weeks from now we think back and we say, man, Tyler Huntley just had 2 inches longer, wingspan 2 inches longer, and he reaches that ball over the goal line.
You lose right then and there.
The Bengals are not beating the Bengals. No. The Bengals were not going to come back down 24-17 against the Ravens the way they were playing at that time. Maybe they could have pulled a rabbit out of their hat, but the Ravens were dominating the Bengals defensively at that point in the game. Joe Burrow has proven that he, is clutch and could come down and try and do that. But I think the way the game was trending, if Sam Hubbard doesn't run that ball back, is a Ravens win. And now all of a sudden you go in, flat out dominate the Bills and play what could have been the Bengals' best game of the year. And now you're going to Kansas City with a chance to go to the Super Bowl.
Let's
And
go.
you're looking back at that Ravens game going, man, if they had just handed the ball off to,
You're right.
J.K. Dobbins?
Yeah.
That's how a lot of championships are won. I mean, most of the time, when you look back at any kind of run of any championship at all, there is a little fortune that happens.
I guess Georgia,
for everybody.
Ohio State makes that field goal.
It's 100%. I think it's for every single champion that's ever won. I genuinely believe that. If you go back through in the NCAA tournaments, there's always a team that's got a last-second shot to possibly beat somebody, and they don't, and then they go on to win the whole entire thing. So there is, as we've said before, there's something that is intangible that Vegas, I see people on here telling me right now, hey, the simulations are telling me that without Mahomes, there's a 2.5-point favorite for the Chiefs still. I'm not saying the Chiefs can't win this game. I'm saying the Chiefs can't win this game with Mahomes in the manner in which he played in the second half. That isn't going to happen. Can they win with Chad Henne at quarterback? They could possibly win with Chad Henne at quarterback. But for my money, I'd rather lose money on betting on Joe Burrow than win money betting on Chad Henne. That's how I feel about it. And I've lost a lot of money before on weekends, like this past one with Kansas.
Tough.
And Dak Prescott, who for my
and the Bills.
For my money that I lost, I did lose some money on the Bills. I did. But that was not that bad, actually. That was actually okay. So I was trying to middle that between a couple of books. But that's here nor there. What's important now is the best QB one. Reed?
Yes.
You've said this from time to time. In fact, we got made fun of on the Box Lunch months ago, how one of our topics talked about is the only thing that really matters in the NFL is if you have a good quarterback or not. And people are like, oh, yeah, hot take. Well, you brought up a point.
Listen, people try to complicate this game. And to win in the NFL seems incredibly easy. And it's not incredibly easy, but it's an easy process, right? You get a good coach. You get a good quarterback. This weekend, the best quarterback in every game won. You take it to Saturday, the first game. Patrick Mahomes is better than Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a fantastic career. But Patrick Mahomes is better than Trevor Lawrence. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. You go Saturday night. Jalen Hurts, much better than Danny Dimes. Sorry, Paul.
Breaks my heart.
Last night, Brock Purdy showed to be better than Dak Prescott. I think the proof's in the pudding with Dak Prescott, and they should be looking elsewhere. And then yesterday, obviously, Joe Burrow is better than Josh Allen. And listen, this is what's crazy about the Joe Burrow versus Josh Allen thing. Josh Allen gets more credit for losing to the Chiefs in the playoffs every year. He gets more credit for losing to the Chiefs in the playoffs than Joe Burrow gets for beating the Chiefs 3 times. We keep talking about, like, oh, well, if they had a coin flip or the coin flip won them that game. Like, yeah, but they still lost. Joe Burrow doesn't do that. But the best quarterback seems to win. Listen, you can complicate it and say, yeah, there's 21 other guys. But every single year we show the same thing. And, yeah, you can go, Brad Johnson won back in 2002 or Trent Dilfer won back in 2001. The game's changed. They completely have changed the game, have rigged the game, if you want to say it like that, to where offenses push the NFL forward. That's why every coach is hiring, every franchise is hiring offensive-minded head coaches. There was only one defensive-minded head coach that played in the divisional round, and that was Sean McDermott. And we showed what their offense does with one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So offense is continually pushing, and the quarterbacks will continue winning from here on forward. I don't know how hot of a take that is to say that NFL quarterback is the main factor of success in the NFL, but it's evident. The proof's in the pudding. It has to be. It's done. But Patrick Mahomes is not as good Patrick Mahomes is better than Joe Burrow. I love Joe Burrow. Patrick Mahomes is better.
And that's where I disagree. And we'll disagree on that for a long time, I guess, because at the end of the day, I don't know what happened in Kansas City that somehow makes it to where Patrick Mahomes is automatically the best quarterback in the league, because he's never beaten Joe Burrow. So where I come from, when 2 guys get in a ring or they start fighting on the street and one guy knocks one guy out and then they both go home, they're like, might have been a lucky punch. And then they come back and they fight again and the same guy gets knocked out again and they both go home. You start to hear the rumor mill on the streets. He's like, well, maybe that other guy is just better at fighting. And then they come back 1/3 time. And the same guy that's gotten knocked out the first 2 times, gets knocked out again, when I go home, I don't sit there and think, well, the guy that's gotten his ass knocked out 3 times laying on the pavement, he's still the better fighter. So, until I see otherwise, Patrick Mahomes ain't that dude. And he ain't Joe Burrow. So when Joe Burrow marches his tail into Kansas City this weekend, and everybody after the game goes, can you believe that I could have gotten plus points on Joe Burrow against the Kansas City Chiefs? Can you believe that? Be like, yeah. Seems like a wild thing, huh?
Will we ever see a Bengals money line be plus 200 again?
Yeah, somehow, some way, right? Like, what do you mean by that?
With Joe Burrow and this team in the next few years, will we see a Bengals money line plus 200 again?
You want me to piss everybody off and in the chat? What? Like, if they play the Eagles, they might be plus 200.
Yeah. I think they would be plus 200 with the 49ers.
They're plus 250 to win the Super Bowl. That's them winning 2 games.
Yeah.
I mean, they might not be. I don't know.
Right.
But we'll see.
I think they'd be favored against the 49ers or it'd be close.
Yeah, because we got the better quarterback.
Yeah, I think if it was the Bengals and the 49ers, I think it would be close to a pick 'em. It's weird. Usually they put a look-ahead line out. They haven't done that.
Yeah, they used to, sometimes you're able to bet on it.
Usually,
literally bet on it if they win before the game happens.
Yeah, I don't know why. Which is why I was asking a minute ago, is it more prudent to just take the Bengals if you're looking for that plus sign? Is it more prudent to just take the Bengals right now? Because if you're thinking of plus 275, that would be better for your money than if they ended up playing the 49ers. Now, they would be underdogs against the Eagles. So take that for what it's worth, too.
Is there any reason as to why Joe Burrow shouldn't be the favorite to win the MVP? In my opinion. I mean, is there a guy...
The Super Bowl MVP or the MVP?
The MVP of the league. Is there any guy... What metric... No matter how you want to skin the cat, I don't care how you do it. But at the end of the day, who's the most valuable player on the field for their specific team? Joe Burrow's it. In what world does Joe Burrow possibly not be playing or possibly be playing, not have the situation or the speculation that the Bengals are automatically going to lose? In Kansas City this week, I got guys in the chat telling me that Kansas City's still favored even if Patrick Mahomes doesn't play. So if Joe Burrow doesn't play this week, do you think we'd be running around saying how there's no, it doesn't matter. Back up or not, Bengals got a chance. No. So what's most valuable mean? That's a genuine question. At some point, I'm like in the room trying to convince Bengals fans that their quarterback is the best quarterback in the league, the most valuable quarterback in the league, and I don't see how it's even a debate. I really don't. Anybody?
I mean, I agree with you. I think Joe Burrow deserved MVP last year. I think he deserves it this year, but that's not the type of award it is. It's a stat award, and until that changes, it's going to be in favor of whoever has the better stats, a la Patrick Mahomes, and they wouldn't even consider the game that Joe Burrow missed and the factor of that. I bet you he doesn't even crack the top 3. So that's the unfortunate part of this whole thing, too, is that circumstance.
On one leg in a divisional playoff game, Patrick Mahomes completed over 70% of his passes, threw for 2 touchdowns and 195 yards, only playing basically a half of football. Patrick Mahomes lost Tyreek Hill, who is one of the most versatile weapons in the entire National Football League. And I love Joe Burrow, but guys, Patrick Mahomes is better. And I don't feel like I'm crazy for saying this, but you're making me feel like I'm crazy. He lost Tyreek Hill and his number 1 receiver, Juju Smith-Schuster, for half the season. And he still almost broke the passing record. It was like 100 yards short of it. And yeah, Andy Reid's maybe the greatest offensive mind ever. But Patrick Mahomes continually is showing that he's the best player in the National Football League.
Cool. Take Joe Burrow off the Bengals. Take Joe Burrow off the Bengals. Take Mahomes off the Chiefs. See how much the line moves. That seems like a pretty fair, most valuable thing to me. It's not even close. It's not even close. I don't care about the stats. I watched Chad Henne come out onto the field, cold as ice, march his team 99 yards, right down the field and score. Put Brandon Allen in the game, and literally the game will be over, but the game won't even start. It'll be over. I get what you're saying, Reed, and it's a very fair point. It's more than fair, actually. Do I think this is where I get with the whole Patrick Mahomes thing, and why I start to hate him is not because I don't think he's good. It's because I think that he's just way inflated. It's overinflation on somebody that has been touted as quote unquote the GOAT, when in reality it's a lot of very, very good fortune for him, and I'm not taking anything away from him because he's in that situation. You can't get mad at the rich kid because his dad's wealthy. But at the same time, I'm not going to look over at the one kid who's incredibly talented, that when they've gotten in the same ring 3 or 4 times has beaten him, and not say that the other guy's not better. I cannot not say Joe Burrow's not better than Patrick Mahomes. It goes against all the logic that I have.
Using my eyes, I've never seen people do what Patrick Mahomes does every week. Using my eyes.
What about Justin
Not
Fields?
using
He's
the
the most
stats.
exciting quarterback.
Patrick Mahomes and Justin Fields are the most exciting quarterbacks in the NFL. But
I will never get the Justin Fields most exciting quarterback thing.
Rushing for 70-yard touchdowns is pretty exciting. But Patrick Mahomes every single week, in the one drive that he played before he got hurt, wowed me 3 times. He did a jump pass and threw an absolute missile. He was in the air and threw a missile 30 yards downfield on a dime. He wows me every time I watch him, as long as he's healthy. And even when he's not, he still leads his team to a divisional win. And I love Joe Burrow, but don't make me feel crazy for saying that Patrick Mahomes is better than Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is in a league of his own.
So you like the
in the
Fernando
second tier.
Tatis Juniors of the world over like Scott Rowlands? Because Fernando Tatis is going to be able to do things that Scott Rowland could only ever dream about doing.
Fernando Tatis in his full season that he played is better than any season Scott Rowland put out, yeah.
But at some point, what about the reliability? At some point, what about the fact that this guy goes out there and every single week he makes the plays and he wins the game? He wins the game. He wins the game. And he'll do it again. If Joe Burrow plays against Patrick Mahomes this week, they'll do it again. Chad Henne, I'm not sure about. He'll laugh out loud about it. Do whatever you want. You know what would actually be somewhat funny? And I want the Bengals still to win. I hope the Bengals are up 24-0 against the one-footed Patrick Mahomes. They bring in Chad Henne off the bench, and next thing you know, they win. The Bengals win 28-24. And it's like, damn. Could you imagine what happened if they started the guy that was actually healthy, that could run around, that could roll out to the right or roll out to the left? We'll see. Call me crazy. Call me a hater. I don't care what you call me.
Chad Henne also has been around a while. You know, it's not like
he's 38 years old, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's seen a thing or two. It's not like we're talking about like
Brandon Allen,
or like who the guy from I don't even remember his name. I mean, yeah, Brandon Allen's a good example, or the guy from Miami. Like, we're talking about a guy that's made millions of dollars off being a backup and has been in Andy Reid's system for a long time and knows what he's doing and is a capable player. Like, if this is to happen, it's not like he's some schmuck off the ground. Like, I don't know.
He's a man of Michigan.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Someone in the chat's upset at their head coach McDermott because of the way the Bills played yesterday. As much as I've torn the Bills
fans
down,
want him gone.
As much as I've torn down the Bills,
they need an offensive-minded coach.
There can at least be some logical explanation around the idea of them having some things that are going on around the facilities to where you could say that they weren't playing their best football towards the end of the year because of the situation that happened with Damar Hamlin. I'm not saying that should be an excuse. I'm not saying that's the reason why, but reasonable minds could probably say that there's an excuse there if you want to take it with McDermott. I'm not saying that I believe that, but if someone were to propose that to me, I don't think I'd have a strong argument to be like, yeah, McDermott, he's a terrible coach, and there's no reason as to why he should be let go. Like he's
he probably shouldn't be let go, but Sean McDermott just did get coached circles around by Zach Taylor, who we were ready to fire week 3 of this season.
Yeah, well, that's fans, right?
You're right, and that's what comes down with the Bills things too, right? I mean,
yeah,
they're fans. Fans are gonna fan.
They're mad. Yeah, they're mad the day after. I think McDermott probably deserves to be back, I'd say, but we'll see how that all goes. All right, Kansas City plans. We got to figure this out because Reed got a situation on his hands that he's trying to sort through. That he may be going to the game. He may be going to the game. He's got family that lives in Kansas City, or not Kansas City, but in Kansas. So they're working through that. Sean, I think, Casey, there's a line in the sand on the amount of money that we want to spend to go to this game. I mean, maybe that's sharing too much information. I don't know. You could say that you prefer not to say that over the airwaves, but is there a number in mind? I got a number for myself in line. Like, this is my line in the sand. I don't know if you've looked at the temperatures for this game, but it's going to be incredibly cold.
Dude.
Have you seen the temperatures?
Did you see what I was just in?
It wasn't that bad in Buffalo. I guess you were on
we were covered in snow, though. That's what I was getting at.
Okay. So you're saying you don't care.
What's the temperature like?
It's going to be probably brutal.
I'll say this. I went the whole time without doing it.
I'll give you.
Since you guys started, I didn't do it.
I'll give you a live weather report when you get done with your point.
My buddies have been asking about going. Other people, friends and family have. I was lucky enough to have a job where I was there last year when they clinched to go to the Super Bowl. Being at the game when your team clinches a spot to go to the championship is one of the coolest experiences of your life. So if you can go.
The thing too.
It's a lot of money though.
That's a great start to the rest of the trip too. I mean,
it would be. The only ask that I have from all of you guys is that if the Bengals were to not win this game, it can't be like a morgue for 3 days. All right.
It won't.
All right.
It won't be.
All right.
Be a morgue for one day.
It'd be Monday's gonna hurt, but by game time, by tip Tuesday, whenever the game, we'll be back on the saddle. But so yeah, to allude to the point that you made, my brother lives in Wichita, Kansas. He's a college baseball coach out there, and he called me like 2 months ago, and he said, "Listen, Reed, if the Bengals and the Chiefs play in the postseason again, we've got to go." And he's reiterated this point along the process, like we're going. And all of a sudden, you know, we're in the third quarter, we're kicking the Bills' tail, and my brother Drew calls me up and said, "We're doing this. We're absolutely going." So yeah, we've got some things in the hopper that I've got to sort through, but I would say that I would not need to be in part with your guys' ticket talks, because I think I'll be sitting with my family, but we will all be in Kansas City.
So it's going to be a high of 22. Game's at 6:30, by the way, so I don't think that high is going to be anywhere near what it's saying it's going to be. The low on the fortunate end is 6 degrees.
Woo.
So it's going to be cold.
It's going to be cold.
So we still got to have the question answered, because that between the two of you, there's a number in mind that, you know, there's a line in the sand of like, okay, this would make sense, this wouldn't.
Who's all going? You three and
it's
No, I can't go. Yeah, I can't go.
Paul is a game time decision, and we'll figure that out in the office the rest of the week. He's got work that he's got to do. Reed's going, Casey's going, Sean's going, I'm going. So there's got to be a number that you have in mind of how much we got to spend to get in these tickets.
Seho, you're not going?
He's a game time.
I was in on the original bet. Now
he's thinking about it.
One of my best friends lives in Kansas City. I was texting him yesterday. Got a free place to stay, but the flights and but you got
driving.
I know that. When are you guys leaving? Driving.
That's the decision that we have not made. We've got to make plans.
We got a lot of things.
We got to talk through some of this. Maybe the chat can help us out. I believe I'm under the impression. Now again, I'm going to be in the doghouse for this, but spoiler alert, I am going to. I don't even want to say it over the air because it's a surprise for our kids, but I'm going on a trip a couple weeks later.
Yeah.
And so I guess my point is she'll get over it.
I'm driving to Kansas City the week after the Super Bowl for one of my best friend's weddings, the guy that I would stay with if I went.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think we leave out Friday.
Yeah.
I think we leave out Friday night, drive a little bit through the night,
St.
get us to St. Louis, stay in the hotel on Friday, whatever you call it, Saturday morning or Friday night, and then when you wake up on Saturday, you have at least somewhat of a short trip. Got college basketball on, Paul.
Go up to Omaha. Go see X. Go to Creighton. It's like 2 hours.
Are you guys bailing on the Kansas game if you go to the Chiefs game for financial
Tickets are
purposes?
bought for the Kansas game.
No, tickets are already bought for the Kansas game.
Tom's gonna be running his own show.
It's gonna be me and Thom. It's gonna be me and Thom breaking down the Bengals beating the Chiefs. I'm gonna be pressing buttons, calling Casey live. We're gonna be smashing the keyboard. Tom's gonna be taking a break. We're gonna go to the Ham and Eggers. It's just gonna be my dumbass sitting up here. It's gonna be a great time. It's gonna be a great time.
Wait, bring John in, the intern. He can sit here with you.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great time.
I don't know what this show's gonna be, to be honest, coming next Monday, but we'll figure it out.
You guys want to know some good news? Game's on Sunday. So we swung and missed on the Buffalo Parlay last week. We're 0-3 on the Buffalo Parlay. We've got essentially 5 tries at the Kansas City Parlay. We got 5 days of college basketball games, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, responsibly, of course. This is sponsored by Betfred Sportsbook. But
21 plus in Ohio.
21 plus in Ohio, 1-800 number if you have a problem.
1-800-GAMBLER.
Gambler, that's it. And so we got 5 tries at this parlay. We've got 5 tries at the Kansas City Parlay.
There's got to be a number, guys. We got to have a number out of the both of you. Come on, give it to us.
What, for a ticket price?
Ticket price. Got to get in.
Based off of what I've seen and what I just spent, I think $650 is the most you can go.
Woo!
Whoa! Whoa!
Baller!
Oh my God!
What? My Lanta.
That's the most you can.
My God!
Getting it into 500. I'm just.
I thought you were gonna say like 3.
Yeah, I don't want to spend that.
No, the question's simple. What is the price point that if someone said, this is the price, Sunday morning, you going or not, I'm either going to say I can't spend that much, I can't swallow it, or I'm going. My number, to give you a little bit, is like $350.
You're never going to get a ticket for that, though.
I disagree.
Somebody wants to dump them last minute.
Not even last minute. Just like
they're already down to like $350. I just looked. Like,
all right. Well, then never mind. My number is $350. Then that's perfect. I can do that.
But that's nosebleeds. That's
Casey, are you without peer pressure? In all honesty, without peer pressure, you've gone to every. Can I make a sales point? I'm gonna make a sales point for you, and then I'm gonna give you a little bit of an out on both ends. One is you've already spent probably a lot of money on tickets going to every single playoff game. But I'm going to flip that on its head, Casey. Could you imagine if the Bengals win the Super Bowl? I want you to picture this in your mind as we speak and do this. Bengals win the Super Bowl, grandkids sitting in your lap. And he's like, Grandpa, what was it like when the Bengals won the Super Bowl? And you'd be like, son, I went to every single game. Maybe even the Super Bowl, but we'll save that.
We'd have 2 weeks to hit the Super Bowl parlay.
The Super Bowl parlay. We'd have 2. We might need to hit a couple.
Right. Maybe you sprinkle it. Maybe it's like a 3-leg, 3-day kind of.
Was it in Phoenix?
Phoenix.
Do we know anybody in Phoenix?
All that said,
Brady
Casey.
Johnson.
All that said, we'll get to the Super Bowl later. We'll get to the Super Bowl later.
$30,000 for the whole month.
What's your number?
Oh man, guys,
it's priceless.
Casey's down bad.
I couldn't even begin
refinance the house.
I would have to for me to even consider it. I would have to hit a Kansas City parlay. I would have to.
The KC parlay.
Well, we need to know a number
the KC parlay.
So we are going to have a Kansas City parlay. That's how we're all going to do it because besides Reed, he's got his own situation he's figured out. But we're all going to do it because I'll be frank. I don't know how much I desire to go sit in 7-degree temperature at a football game that isn't a game that I would say that I'm there to die for. But I have to have a number. I need to win a parlay. My number is like $350 get in. What's your number? Because then we can base that off of how much we got to hit. That's how we're going to do this.
I just don't think we're getting in for less than 500.
Yeah, that's my thing is I don't think we're going to get in for 350. You might get lucky with 400, but I think you're looking at 455.
Also, don't plan to do anything after the game if we drive there because it takes 4 hours to get out of that parking lot.
Well,
It is-
that's fine though, because we would be
Celebrating?
We'd be celebrating. We're already going to be
I'd be
hanging
waving
out
the
there at
fans
the hotel,
goodbye.
right?
Bye-bye. Come back
Correct.
anytime.
Yeah. So that doesn't bother me as much, but yeah, I mean, we would have to make some money. That's how we would have to do it.
To be clear, though, you're not paying a single dollar on this trip, right? I mean, I guess the food.
Right.
I'm just painting the picture. Just painting the picture. The only thing that you have to do is get yourself into the game. I mean, what's that number? You think it's $500? Chat, correct me if I'm wrong. There's no way it's $500.
No, right now on StubHub it's $365.
So they've gone down.
It's going to go down even more when they hear their old boy Patty Mahomes ain't playing. Kansas City fans are not going to want to go there and get Burrow baptized again. Just saying. I mean, do you want to? If you live in Kansas City, do you want to get Burrow baptized again? I mean, you've seen this story how many times? If you're in Kansas City, just put your tickets on StubHub. Take what you can get for them. Save it up for next year's season tickets. Seems like a good idea. Can you at least give us a number, Casey?
I can't give a number out right now. I can't. I would have to win a parlay, man. I'd have to.
Well, good luck. We got 5 tries.
We got 5 tries.
We got 5 bullets in the chamber.
I'd really like to make this like a 3-gamer, though. If we could make this a 3-gamer.
Got to put a little more cheese on.
No, I'm saying if we make this a 3-gamer.
All right, so how about this?
We can do it.
How about this? 400.
400 is the number we need to get. So we need to build out the Kansas City parlay for 400.
We'll have it out.
We'll figure that
2
out.
tickets
we'll put it
to
in
the
chat.
Super Bowl right now.
See, the Super Bowl's
5,000.
impossible.
Well, then you can do the ladder challenge. That's where you get it.
Great point, Reed.
Now, hang on. How many units are we up on Not Too Picky?
21 this past week.
If we had just listened to Not Too Picky and
That's
followed
true.
that advice,
It's
man,
true.
we wouldn't
Casey's
be having this
pubbing the
conversation.
show.
Casey's
pubbing the show.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, then why aren't we good?
Casey
Add one leg more, few there.
Yeah, that's tough.
Ruin the parlay.
That's tough.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have anything in the vault today, guys? Are we going to start this Kansas City parlay off right now? Let's do it. Why not? I mean, this isn't going to be eloquent. This isn't going to be tasteful. This isn't going to be pretty, what we're about to do. We're going to probably dig on our computers for a minute. We're going to just look in the chat, see if anybody's got winners. We need 4 legs or 3?
Probably 4.
4?
4 for
$20?
4.
$20? What's our unit size? That matters a lot.
4 units is about 12 plus 1,200 for four games. It's about plus 1,200, right?
And that means $20 gets us there?
$20 would get us to about $250.
$20 would get you a ticket on 4 legs. $20 would get you it, right?
4 legs is plus 1,200.
You know, AJ was talking earlier and said that we gave all of our money back from the TCU game. That's not true. That's the farthest thing from the truth. But, you know, if you've watched this show enough, you've been a part of us from the beginning. You know, from time to time, I like to be relatively giving. I think we have an opportunity today where, you know what, just so
5 legs. 5 legs gets us there.
This is kind of laugh out loud funny, if we're being honest.
Oh, you still have that cash there?
Oh, my God.
We just got to figure out. All right, let's see here.
That's still there?
Still there. It's been there for a while. All right.
Casey's been skimming. He knew that bag was there. He's been skimming.
Oh, yeah. I think there's money there. I don't know if there is or there isn't. I say, this is my opinion for all of us, because we are staying at a casino resort.
Mare Star.
I say, no free ads, Reed. Come on. I say, what we do is we take a little bit of that TCU money. I like how I'm calling it TCU money, not Georgia money. Take a little bit of that Georgia money, and we find one that we like a lot for the next 3 days. And the parlay. We can do the parlay too, but I'm saying this is theoretically company money, if you want to call it that. Not really, but Our best play for the next 3 days, double or nothing. If that hits, then that's got to be. Not all of it, but, a responsible amount, of course. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, Ohio only. If you're going to gamble with Betfred Sportsbook because they have the best boost. They have the best Cincinnati Bengal friendly bets.
They boosted Jamar Chase anytime score plus 150 yesterday.
How much money do you think Betfred lost this
First
week
touchdown.
in Southwest Ohio?
They got killed.
In all seriousness,
Got killed.
They had to get crushed.
They got killed.
You know what? They better be careful. They're gonna get killed again.
So when you get on their desktop, which I'm on right now, they do this nice thing where they build you a parlay. You get on the site, they're like, here's 5 picks parlay. It's $10 to win $1,100, guys. Just need the Hawks, Pistons, Buffalo Sabres, and the New York Rangers and Houston Rockets. Now, Sejo, as a puck guy, do we like the Sabres and the Rangers tonight?
Sabres are hot.
I haven't even got into it yet.
Oh shoot, they play the Dallas Stars. We hate that.
Yeah, no.
I hate that. You're trying.
John, we'd have to give away. John said, "Hammer Houston money line on Saturday against the Cats. Cats can't get close to beating anyone halfway good." Let me tell you something, John. We'd have to mortgage my house just to get enough money to be able to figure out a way to put that on the money line to win tickets for this game. I'm being serious.
Right, it'd be bad.
It'd be real bad. It's like minus what, 900 in that game.
Now Spur Lock says that Baylor's a play tonight, and I'm looking at the abacus. The
They probably are.
Minus 2.5, and Baylor seems like a good bet.
Okay,
They're getting all the
Kansas.
losses out before we get there.
That's Kansas, right?
Yeah.
I took the over in that game. It seems like a Big 12 toss-up. Seems like a game Kansas could win as a rebound. Seems like a game.
Did you miss a pick on the
baby!
On the sheet last week? I don't think you missed a not too.
And I'm 3-0. My Paul's pick of the day was 3-0 over the weekend.
Hoosiers are back.
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna go with Baylor.
Baylor. We'll put the parlay out. We got to get in the lab a little bit. But if you have any picks besides Baylor, anyone have a pick besides? You said the over.
I said the over in that game. Yeah.
Likes the over. Likes some
I'm looking
points.
at.
I think I got it at 1.
I haven't looked at anything yet.
NBA games. I like NBA games, by the way.
I hate the NBA after
I'm looking
last
at
week.
the Celtics, and they're starting to look like
Grizzlies. Make a free throw.
Jaw. Oh yeah. Oh man.
NBA's dead.
I'm so sorry.
All right, if you're watching this show for the first time, we appreciate you sticking around. If it's not your first time, we appreciate you coming back.
Wheel of lunch.
It is the most worthless hour of your day, more than likely. We can try to keep things relatively light, insightful, fun, funny from time to time. But we have this thing called the Wheel of Lunch. We can end it every day with every show. And I will say, people think we don't go out to lunch every day. We do. We need to probably fix that. We wouldn't have to hit so many parlays if we didn't.
Yeah.
How much money do you think we waste on lunch? You ever thought about that?
I mean, if you think about if we're lowballing it and say we spend $10 a day.
That's low, yeah.
If we're lowballing it, that's $50 a week. That's at least $200 a month.
At the end of the day, it just doesn't sound like it's worth it to have to pack my own lunch. I got to be honest. Is that like first
My
world
wife
problems?
gets on me a lot about it. She's like, "You go out every day."
You guys remember I had a solid 2 week
like
stretch where I packed every day.
You did.
It helped.
It's a company thing.
Yeah, it does feel like it that though, right? Like you're going out with your friends, you're hanging out, a little camaraderie building.
All right, what do we got? It's a Monday. You got to throw Taco Bell on there.
Put Cane's on there.
Oh no, that's the one I hope does not hit.
Take Cane's off.
Oh,
Read the It's,
read the room. Was I supposed to know we didn't want chicken fingers?
Penn Station.
No. Penn Station, yeah. Throw Penn Station on there.
That's right. And I'm waiting. I'm gonna go check. I'm gonna go check Hides. Put Hides on there.
Put Hides.
What?
That's a good idea. That's a
Hides.
great. What a Cincinnati kid, man. What a.
Love Hides.
Sonic.
God, Sir Boy knows how to get underneath my skin quickly. Does Sonic even have food, if we're being honest?
Yeah. Casey and I went to Sonic.
We did.
Gosh, Sonic is.
There's 2 Sonics around.
There's a million Sonics on there. It became like the chat troll trend there for a minute. It was like, oh, everybody throw Sonic on there.
Soup Kitchen. White Castle. I could roll with White
Waffle
Castle.
House.
We're just gonna.
All right, now let's go.
Rip it.
There's some duds on there.
Yeah, this is.
By the way, if we've gotten to the point now where we don't add in the things at the end, right? We know that it's random. We don't have to like add two more things in at the very last.
Oh yeah.
Part of the show. Good. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. No.
We had nowhere to go anyways, guys. Good Start doesn't allow people to sit inside.
That was no lunch. So at least we got that out of the way.
Thank God I hate Chipotle.
Oh man.
Chipotle's terrible.
I like Chipotle. I just don't eat it much. I always wait for it to win on the wheel. I could go to Firehouse. It's gonna roll.
Oh no. See ya, Hides.
I don't even know that's how you spell it, but
That is. That was a good call.
Paul would rather eat Penn Station and die than go to Canes. Ever. I don't mind Canes. No, keep going.
Oof.
No.
This is
We
not
got some
looking.
duds up there.
Oh, this is a bad lunch.
We got some duds. I can't go to Sonic, guys. Sonic.
Penn Station's going to hit. It's going to save everyone's day. All right?
Anything other than Sonic, I'm cool with.
Sit. All right. Yikes.
Why did you want Canes gone that badly over those options?
I'd go to White Castle.
Ugh. Sonic's terrible. Thank God. Get out of there, Sonic.
There we go. Now we're talking.
All right.
Penn Station's going to save the day, guys.
Yeah, it is.
It's going to save the day.
Just go to Penn Station.
I needed Sonic gone.
Let's just end the wheel of lunch now and go to Penn Station because that's what's going to hit.
No.
Okay.
Here we go.
Here we go.
All right.
This is a winner-winner.
This is winning.
Paul's cool with Penn Station because that means he just gets to go wherever he wants to go.
T-Bell. We're getting blasted today.
I think it was Taco Bell for Paul either way.
I think it was Taco Bell for me either way.
All right, so that will do it for us at the Box Lunch. We will try to cook up a parlay that's going to send us to the game, not just Kansas City. And
who sponsors the show?
Betfred Sportsbook. If you're going to bet, in all seriousness, I know we talk about that a lot. Bet responsibly, okay? Even though when we say we lost a lot of money, I did, and I lost a lot of money this weekend. I did it relatively responsibly, and I say that.
Fred robbed you.
Fred got some of his own money back. You know, when you're in the casino and you're up a lot, you just start throwing around a little loosely, a little recklessly. That's what I did this weekend. But I didn't lose my own money, to be clear. So please, bet responsibly. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Get help, okay? And that's all. I'm being dead serious when I say that. 21 plus in Ohio. And we are very thankful for our friends at Betfred for supporting us, supporting our original content, supporting our shows. And we thank you for watching because at the end of the day, this is why we do it, is to entertain the best we can. Not always entertaining, but we try. And we also enjoy interacting with you guys in the chat. We'd like to do some giveaways from time to time when we're afforded that opportunity. And I think that we are going to find a way. You know when you have that gut instinctive feeling? I have a gut instinctive feeling that we are going to hit one of these parlays. We're probably going to hit the one tonight, to be honest. I feel really good about it. I don't know why. Probably the same way that Kansas City fans are going to feel when they walk into Arrowhead on Sunday. They're going to have that feeling too, but it's going to be the opposite direction. They're going to be like, "Damn. Joe Burrow, he's out there. He got off the bus. Nothing wrong with him. He doesn't have food poisoning. He's still out there. We got a problem. We got a big problem on your hands in Kansas City." All right. That'll do it for us. We're going to go to Taco Bell. We're going to cook up a parlay. We're going to hit that parlay. We're going to come back on Wednesday and laugh about it, and we're all going to have a hell of a time. But until then, enjoy Off the Bench tomorrow. That airs every day, 10 to noon, right here on Chatterbox Sports. Take care, everybody.